we'll just get started. All right. So we're doing the Talent to Strength session, y'all. And I'm really excited to be bringing this information to you. I think StrengthsFinder is one of the coolest things. I've been doing training and development for like 25 years now. And this topic, the talking about the StrengthsFinder, it's almost always one of the most like enjoyable things for the participants. I mean, there's things that I enjoy talking about that sometimes the people I'm working with aren't that interested in. And my job is to get them interested in it. And then, but this is something that everyone I've talked to about it, they're almost always interested because this is about you. This is about who you are. And this is just really good information. I think everybody should have this information about themselves. And like if you're in meaningful relationships, you should have this information about each other. And you'll see what I mean as we get into it. But real quick, just maybe a little show of hands, because I think I want to talk to you more and interact more, but it's going to be really awkward currently until we get it fixed. But like just a little show of hands. How many of you were able to read through your results of your StrengthsFinder? You got a chance to, yeah, okay. And then of those who did, how many of you thought the results were accurate? Raise your hand if you thought, wow, this kind of does describe me. You know, maybe not perfectly, but a lot of it was like, oh, all right, okay, good. That's usually the experience people have with this. Usually they really get insights, they feel like it's accurate, and then they say a lot that it gives them language for describing aspects about themselves that they never really had a word for. Anybody have that experience? Like, oh yeah, I always knew this, but I didn't really know there was a word for it. Anybody have that? I know I did with a couple of mine. All right, cool. So what is this information? What are we going to be talking to you about? And so I want to preface it this way. It's kind of new for me to talk about it this way, but basically what we're talking about are your patterns for how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. These are just patterns for how you think, feel, and behave. And Gallup looks at 34 of them. So that's what they're testing for in the StrengthsFinder is they're looking at 34 different patterns for how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. And this is really, to me, cool because what is a pattern? A pattern is something that happens over time. So if this is time and this is frequency, I'm just gonna write the word, how often something happens, how frequently it happens. Over time, if something happens more frequently, then it's a pattern. If something only happens once, it's not a pattern. If it happens twice, it's a coincidence. But if it happens 3 times or more, you're starting to see a pattern. And that's what this is showing. This is showing your patterns for how you think, feel, and behave. When you're in a new situation, what thoughts do you have? What feels good to you and what feels bad to you? And what kind of behaviors do you tend to take? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And that's really primary to people because this is going to sound weird, all right? But I'm going to look at you when I say this, all right? I know what you've done all day, all week, all your life. and what I mean is everything you've done has been thinking, feeling, and behaving. And over time, you've developed patterns for how you think, feel, and behave. Does that mean that's how you think, feel, and behave all the time? No. But when you're not thinking about things, you have patterns. You have a certain way you brush your teeth. You have a certain way you drive to work. You have a certain way you like your food. And these are patterns you've developed. We all have developed them. In fact, our lives are largely patterns. And so what we're going to talk about today is patterns. I don't know. What do you think of that? Any reactions? Maybe let's see, test the audio here. Any reactions to what I said? Was that a little weird or was that cool or was that you hated it? What were your thoughts?
It was cool.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of cool to think about it. And it's one of those things that no one points out to us, but yet it operates everything. Your parents are patterns. They say the thing, you know what they're going to say when you do this thing, right? Or your kids, if you have kids, they know your patterns and they will use your patterns. If you have pets, your pets know your patterns. They know when you're moving to go get the treats or whatever, they know all that stuff. So patterns run the show and nobody talks about it. And I think that's really funny. Not funny, not just funny. I mean, it can be funny, but it's amazing to me. And so that's what I love about this is it begins to have us talk about patterns. All right. So that wasn't planned for. That was like my little slide. I deviated from the normal, but now I'm getting back to the normal of what we normally talk about. So what we're going to do here, just be ready to share. I want to hear from you all. I'm perfectly well equipped to talk this entire time. That's my superpower. My superpower is I could fill any amount of time with words. Ever since I was a kid, I could just occupy anybody. I'm kidding, but it's kind of true. But I could do all that. But really, I think if you guys have insights, that's going to be great, especially when we get the mechanics working a little better. I'll be able to see you. You raise your hand. I want to hear your thoughts. We're going to talk about something called the POM approach or the method. POM, the M stands for method already. So it's purpose outcomes method. Purpose outcome method it's another secret. I talked about patterns before and nobody talks about it, but it runs everything. Well, everything humans do, everything you've ever done has consisted of a purpose for why you're doing it, the outcomes for what you wanted to have happen, and the methods for how you made it happen. So we'll talk through that more. We're going to talk through your top 5 talents or themes of talent. I'll use those words interchangeably. I'll call them your top 5 or your themes. But whenever I use those words, I'm talking about the StrengthsFinder qualities that you have in your top 5. That's what I'm talking about. Now, they're not strengths, though. Even though it's called StrengthsFinder, what you have are your top 5 themes of talent. And they relate to strengths. They absolutely play a role with strengths, but it's not exactly what you have. These aren't technically strengths. I will tell you, a lot of people will call them strengths, so I just kind of roll with it sometimes. But the proper way to think of it is these are your talents, not your strengths. Your strengths are going to be something else. And we'll get to that. But with your talents, your top 5 themes, there's like a range. Like they could be on a range of, hey, you really develop this talent if you have the achiever talent, or if you have the intellection talent, you might have really developed that at a high level, or it might be kind of raw, kind of like not fully developed yet. Like your power is so great, but you haven't harnessed it yet. The great responsibility that comes with the great power. But there's a range of like raw themes to mature themes. And the idea of this class is to go from the raw to the mature, to have your themes be more, your patterns, in other words, be more under your control. So that's what we're looking at here today is really helping you get the best use of your talents. And to do that, I'm going to introduce you to an approach called COIN. It stands, so what do you do with this information, these top 5 themes of talent? Well, you're going to connect to them. You're going to observe them. You're going to learn to interrupt them, because sometimes your patterns need to be interrupted. And then you're going to learn to nuance them. I know that's a weird word to use, but you're going to develop the subtlety to dial in your talent. So we call that COIN. What we're going to mainly focus on is connect. We might not even worry about observe, interrupt, or nuance. We're going to really focus on you connecting with your themes today. That's the most important thing, because if you can connect, then you can observe. And then there's going to be some resources, and you have them. You should have some materials already prepared for you, and we'll talk about that. So I saw some of you just already looking through that, which is great. Those are there for you. But maybe don't read too far ahead, or stay with me, and we'll cover everything in that folder. But for now, one of the things you should have is this. This is a grid of everybody's top 5 in the room, which will be fun because I want to try to talk about the different ones. For some exercise, we'll have you look at your number 1 theme. And then for another exercise, we'll have you use your number 2 theme. And then we'll have you use your number 3. So this is a way that we'll work through, hopefully touch each of your individual top 5s. But then as we talk about them, like you'll see that some people have the positivity in their top 5 here and over here. So if we talk about positivity, we'll at least be talking about 4 people in the room that have it, which is kind of cool. 4 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 4 out of 10, that's 40% of you have positivity. That means you're slightly more positive. No, you're highly more positive than the average group. That's amazing. And then another report that I don't know if you have this one. You won't really need it, but for me, this gives me a snapshot of the whole group of you all in the room right there. Half of you, 1 out of 2, has this responsibility theme in your top 5. So I already know a lot about you. If you have this theme in your top 5, I know that you feel a lot of pressure to make good on your commitments. I know that throughout the day, you're going to be thinking, all right, who was I going to do this for? What did I say I was going to do? And did I get it done? And if you didn't get it done, you're going to have this like panic. You know, does this sound like anybody in the room? Like responsibility theme, you feel kind of like ownership of the things you sign up for. If you fail to keep your word, you feel terrible. You don't like to delegate so much because you worry if other people will follow through, and you don't know if they will or they won't, so you might not delegate. This is the responsibility theme. You feel guilty for things. You sign up for things just because, you know, nobody else did, and that kind of thing. Anybody resonate with that, the responsibility theme in their top 5? Yeah, right? So yeah, so that theme of responsibility is a pattern for how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. It's just one pattern. There's many patterns, but this one is a strong pattern for you. So learning about it, learning how to use it will be helpful for you, because maybe you take on too much and you don't have time for other things that you wish you did. Or maybe you feel guilty for things that aren't really your responsibility. You shouldn't feel guilty for them. I call that unearned guilt. You feel guilt, but you didn't really earn it. Like if you did something wrong, then you should feel guilty. You've earned that guilt. But a lot of the time for this pattern of responsibility, you feel guilt for things that aren't your fault. So learning, you know, maybe someone's in a bad mood, but you're like, oh, what's wrong? I got to fix it. You feel the responsibility. So that's a pattern. But patterns can be interrupted, and that's kind of the cool thing. And there's 33 other patterns we could talk about. So we won't get to talk about each and every one individually today, but you'll have the information you need to learn about it in your reports. So we have, let's see, what's the responsibility theme? It'll be, you know, Charles or Charlie. If the cameras were working better, I'd stop and say, what do you prefer? In fact, maybe we can do that. Let's just try that. What do you prefer? Charles or Charlie?
Either one. I don't know.
Do you have another? Yeah?
No, I don't have another.
All right, cool. All right, so we could use those interchangeably. Cool. So do you recognize the responsibility theme?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Take on a lot.
You take on a lot? Yeah. All right. Yeah, the audio might not be totally good. We'll keep trying though. And you also have this achiever theme. So Crystal has that one as well. And so does Tatiana. Hope I said this right correctly. And if I didn't pronounce your name right, you know, let me know, Jasmine, or we'll fix that. I mean, I don't know if it'll be comfortable to do it right now when we get hopefully the audio visual in better shape. But you'll see that the achiever theme here is pretty common. So at least 4 out of 10 of you have that one. Let's see. No, 5 of you. Okay, half of you have that one as well. So that's pretty crazy when you think about it. You know, half of you have this quality called achiever. What is achiever? Well, achiever means when you wake up every day, there's like this sort of scoreboard. and you want to rack up as many points as possible. And the way you rack up points is getting things done, accomplishing things. And you feel this inner drive to do that. I don't have achiever very high or responsibility. So my inner world is not quite the same as someone with responsibility or achiever. But I know the patterns, so I know what your patterns are and the things that you're wanting. Sometimes being in a class like this, if you don't feel like you're accomplishing things, it might make you feel like, oh, I'm wasting my time in a meeting or something like that. I'm not saying that's the case. It could be, because the way the achiever feels is like they want to do things that will get them closer to goals, towards things that they consider accomplishments. And that's what they want. They want to collect accomplishments. And where does that pattern come from? Where does the responsibility pattern come from? Those are the interesting questions to ask, right? That's where the self-understanding can come from, because these patterns are powerful. If you have the responsibility theme or the achiever theme or both, you know that what I'm talking about is powerful for you. It's just never been talked about. You might assume everybody else operates the same way even, but some do and some don't. And that's might describe why some people you connect with or some people you don't. It's interesting. This stuff matters. This stuff really matters. All right. I'm getting way, as I normally do, because of some of my themes and my patterns, I get ahead of myself. Let's see, positivity, 4 out of 10 of you have that one, but that's disproportionate to the population. So people with positivity have this reflex, this desire to want to see the best in things. So we have 2 people that have it here in their number 5. We have it here as a number 2 for Jasmine. Let's see, I'm missing one. Yeah, Brianna has it for number 4. So positivity is this knee-jerk desire to automatically see the best in any situation. Just, oh, okay, well, here's the positive in it. And it's what allows you to move forward in life. It gives you momentum, it gives you optimism, it gives you hope. So this is another pattern. We talked about 3, there's 31 other patterns, 31 other flavors up here. 4 of you have the intellection pattern. Let's see. Yeah, intellection. 4 of you like to think about things deeply. So you might like me because I have intellection as my top 5. So I'll sometimes go a little deeper than people want to go. And if you have intellection, you might know this experience where you're in a group of people and somebody might come up to you and go, are you all right? Is everything all right? And you're like, yeah, what, why? And I've had this happen. And it's because the thinking face of intellection doesn't always look like a happy face. It kind of looks like you're spacing out because you're thinking about something, you're intellectualizing it, you're going deep into it. And so you're actually having a party in your head, but it doesn't look that way. Anybody with the intellection theme know what I'm talking about? Anybody have that? Yeah? All right. So it's a pattern. You like to think deeply. How do we harness that? How do we keep any of these patterns from working against you and have them work for you? You got them. You got these patterns. How did you get them? We could talk about that. That could be interesting. Gosh, I'm way ahead of myself. All right. Any reactions to anything so far about what we're talking about? Do you think you like what we're talking about?
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Should I keep going? I want to keep going until we get this audio fixed. I'm just going to keep charging ahead because there's lots to cover. But slow me down. Like, you guys can raise your hand, wave your hand in the air, wave them like you just don't care, but like do care. So, and I'll slow down. Purpose, outcomes, methods. So on the map, you see it's purpose over here, outcomes on the other side of the bridge, and then methods in the middle. And that's because everything we do has a purpose. Everything we do has a reason why we're doing it. So purpose is why. So why are you wearing what you're wearing? Or why am I wearing what I'm wearing? I didn't really think about it that much, but if I slow it down, there was a purpose. Like, this shirt here is like my favorite shirt. So I just wear it when I want to feel comfortable. It's just, especially when it's a little cooler, which it is. I got the windows cracked. You don't need to know all this, except that there's a why. Something as subtle as, why did I pick this shirt? Why are you wearing what you're wearing? Now, with every purpose, there's implied kind of like something you want out of it. So if I'm wearing this shirt, one of the outcomes that I'm going to want is comfort. But I mean, just to be totally frank with you, I also want to be socially appropriate, so I wanted to just wear something more than just something, whatever. I just wanted to wear, it's not super formal at all, but it's not overly formal, which also would have been socially, awkward. So I just wanted to be socially appropriate, whatever, that is. And then also another thing is I wanted the climate control. So I wanted to be cooler or warmer because I have my windows cracked because it's cool, and I like the coolness, but I don't like to be cold. So however I would describe that, I'm just going to put cool. So these are the outcomes that I wanted, but I also wanted to be warm. So there. I wanted to be temperaturally appropriate as well. So if my outcomes don't match my purpose, then I'm going to have what I call contrast. Contrast doesn't feel so great. Sorry about my writing. It's my tablet here, lag. But if my outcomes do align with my purpose, then I have alignment, and alignment feels great. And we're going to talk more about contrast and alignment in a little bit. But contrast and alignment and everything in between pretty much describes how people feel about anything. Anything you feel about is going to be on this scale of like total contrast, I hate it, to total alignment, I love it. Everything fits on that scale. Most things are in the center, right? We don't really notice it that much. Now, how do we get from our purpose to our outcomes? Well, that's what I call the methods. Methods are your how. How am I going to do it? And that should come last. Most people do methods first. They focus on the how first. Outcomes are the what, or the to what ends. The what, the why, the what. Sorry, that was an unacceptable parenthesis. I do have standards, believe it or not. Okay, the how and the what. The how is going from our purpose to our outcomes. That's where we spend our resources. What do I mean by resources? You could probably start to guess. You're probably filling in the blank in your head. What kind of resources? Well, we're talking about time. Yeah. We're talking about money. We're talking about your attention as a resource. You only have so much to spend. Yeah, you get tired and maxed out at the end of the day because attention is like a muscle. And talent are resources. So that's what we're talking about. Your talents, your top 5 themes are resources. They're how you get things done. And other people have different hows. And this is one reason we don't align. We have contrast. Or maybe we don't align because my outcomes are different from your outcomes and we're pulling in different directions. Or maybe we don't align because my purpose and your purpose are different. My why and your why are different. Every drama, all the drama, any drama you have with anybody is usually explained because you have different whys, you have different whats, or you have different hows. Right? Does that make sense? Does that just like, boom, clarify things?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Like this is the kind of stuff I try to teach. These are the things that are really basic, but they're not obvious, but they run the show. They control so much of our like happiness and our life. Because what do you guys want in life? You want good outcomes. Now your outcomes are going to vary from each of you. Each of you will have different outcomes, but I will tell you this, if I were to say, what do you want in life? Your answer would be your outcomes. So what are you striving for? Maybe you haven't really thought about it that much. I mean, most people were striving for better opportunities. We're striving for, and that means better incomes. That means we want better things that come with the better incomes, better, we like better clothes, better cars, better houses. We have outcomes we want in regards to companionship and family and love and friendship and romance and all that stuff. We have outcomes we want in life. And so How do we get them? We have to spend our resources. You have to spend your time. You have to spend your money, your attention, your emotions, and your talents and other things. Your networks, your network of relationships are resources. That's how we get anywhere in life. So this course is about how do we spend our talents. But overall, the POM model is just a model at HPH we use for everything. I'm not at HPH, I'm a consultant, but these are the tools that you'll hear people talk about. POM, purpose, outcomes, and methods. And whenever there's misalignment, that's going to be somewhere between we're not aligned on purpose, outcomes, or methods. So that's a little bit of today. For us specifically now, what is the purpose? See the purpose of this class. Now we're going to use the model. It's not just a framework. It's not just a theory. Our purpose is to strengthen HPH's vision of being the healthcare provider where physicians choose to practice, patients want to receive care, and employees prefer to work by harnessing the benefits of creating a strength-based culture. I know that's a lot of words, but it's basically saying we want to make HPH better for everybody, docs, patients, and employees, by making it a strength-based culture. We believe that's going to make it better. So that's our purpose. That is our why. Why are we doing this T2S training? Why do we make everybody work at HPH go through this? Because this is why. And what are the outcomes from this today specifically? Is that we hope that you all learn the content and experience the benefits of applying the mindset of a strengths-based approach to your lives, your professional lives and your personal lives, which I love that, because that's really, to me, it's got to be, they're both, right? It's both matter. And the things we learn, I think, should apply to both. And this does totally, the content we're talking about, it applies to. Holy cow. All right. Sorry, somebody just called me. The teams experience the benefits of applying this mindset with increased understanding and cooperation. So as you're getting into teams and working around it, that you're able to harness your patterns for how you think, feel, and behave, because that's what we're talking about, so that we have better teamwork. So how are we going to do it? It's a little wonky. My download messed it up a little bit, but StrengthsFinder is a tool designed. So we're going to talk about the StrengthsFinder tool. We're going to explain what that is. StrengthsFinder is the assessment you took. It has 177 questions. It took you probably about 25 minutes to do it. And it gave you these results called your top 5. And then we're going to talk specifically about a way to apply all that information from the StrengthsFinder. And that approach, the philosophy, is called Talent to Strength. That's what we're going to talk about today. You did the StrengthsFinder, and we're going to apply it using Talent to Strength. And we're going to do it in the form of this foundations course. So, 4 hours roughly minus breaks, and yeah, pretty much breaks. And it's going to give you sort of information for where to go from here. It's going to tell it's not just going to describe what you've learned. It's going to maybe point the direction going forward. And then we're going to have some activities that we're going to do today. We'll see how that works out, because normally this is taught with someone in the room with you. So we'll figure that out. I think it's going to be totally fine. But that's our approach. This is our why. This is the what. And so the methods describe our how we're going to do it. All right, cool. POM, I'm probably going to put that away for now. We're not going to talk about it much more, but it's just a really cool tool that you could use for everything in your life. Like, if you want to plan a party, what is my purpose? What are the outcomes that would reflect my purpose? And then what are we going to do at the party to make sure it's a great time? How are we going to use our resources to have a great party? I mean, I know that sounds weird, but I mean, you could use it for that. I work with students, and so it's a great approach to studies. Purpose, outcomes, methods. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. There's so many uses, but we'll come back to it. We got to leave it for now. All right. So one of the things you should have, I think it's on your left-hand side, or forgive me, one side has your reports and the other side will have resource materials. The side that will have your reports. I'd love for you to do this now, actually. We'll take a few minutes for you to do it, just in silence, whatever. Hopefully it's not too awkward. Maybe I'll find music to play, who knows. but it's just going to take a couple minutes. You're going to find this report. It's called your signature themes report. And I'd like you to underline key words and phrases that resonate for you. So I'm actually just asking you to read through your report. I think it should be front and back. There's 5 of them. And then I'm going to ask you to share some examples. Maybe, just be thinking, I'd like maybe you to think of one example you'd be willing to share of how something you underlined showed up in your life. So does that sound cool? I don't know if it sounds cool, but like, can we do that? Awesome. All right, well, let's do it. I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes. I'm going to find something for 5 minutes and play it in the background. Maybe it'll be thought-inspiring music. This is a really goofy song that I used to play when I would study from a CD. It was just thought music. I thought it made my brain work. So I'm just going to play it. I'm so sorry for the noise. Ignore the music. It'll fade into the background. Just read about your themes. All right. It'll grow on you maybe.
Adam,
Yes. Yeah.
did people ever tell you look like Mark Ruffalo?
Ooh, one more time.
People ever tell you look like Mark Ruffalo?
No, but you're probably my favorite person in the class right now. So yeah, awesome. Yeah, but don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. That's from the old school Hulk stuff. You guys probably don't go back that far, but I go back that far. I go back so far I'm in front of me. All right, back to the music. I know you weren't trying to disrupt the music. We're loving it. 2 minutes left, 2 minutes of this delicious song and to read about your themes. How many people were adding that to their playlist? So, I used to listen to that whole album sometimes when I'd study, or CD, because that's like, this is before Apple Music and all of that. You had to just listen to the same things you had over and over. That was all you had. Anyway, I'd love to hear any patterns that stood out to you or anything that you underlined that resonated for you. Just kind of put your hand up, and then that way I can know where to listen. That made no sense. But yeah, I'd love to hear some examples, at least from 3 of you. So as a team, I'd like to hear 3 different examples from your reading. So who's going to be the first pickle? What's the hardest pickle to get out of a jar when you give a new jar of pickles? The first one. So I need a first pickle. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, good. Yes.
So just kind of speak to what are some of the things that stood out, right?
Yes.
Okay, so my first strength is arranger. When I took this test, or like when I got my results, I was like, what the heck is arranger?
Yes.
But then by reading, I thought, oh my gosh, it's like thousands of examples popped into my head of how I really operate. And it's hard to, I used to describe it to people as, I love healthcare, it's very complex, love analytics, it's like all the other strengths make sense, but I could see how, every situation as a complex sort of like, one of those, I don't know, walls or brain where there are a lot of neurological connections, and I see all the complexities, and in my mind, things just kind of like eager, like I can see how things can work, and how can I can rearrange pieces and I do it in my mind, sort of thing. And I've done it before with my team. I had a team of 13, and I work with them, getting to know who is doing what, and I like cross-train some people, like literally sort of rearrange my team a little, but we didn't need to hire 2 additional FTEs because we made it productive with being short staffed, but people were happy, and I made things work. And the more complex, the better it is. And so I love what it says: when faced with a complex situation involving many factors, you enjoy managing all of the variables, aligning and realigning them until you are sure you have arranged them in the most productive configuration possible.
That's perfect.
So I see that in myself.
That's wonderful. That's great. Yeah, the arranger theme is a very cool theme, and we don't have a word for it. Maybe responsibility, like, oh, you're so responsible. People with responsibility might have heard that all their lives. Or people with the achiever theme, they might have heard things like, wow, you're a real go-getter, you like to achieve things. But for things like arranger and other qualities we'll talk about, we don't really have a word for that. We don't really have a way of saying, oh, you're a really good arranger. You're good at finding the optimal configuration of things. It's invisible, but it's your number 1 impulse. So let's look at Tatiana's top 5 right here. I hope you don't mind. If I look like I was distracted, I was pulling up your profile, your report. These are unique reports. Most people who take StrengthsFinder can't get these. Only people who work with Talent to Strength can have these reports. So HPH, they get these. But what the characters are meant to really tell you the story of the theme. So not everybody has a ranger. I think 3 other people will have it here. So we'll talk about a ranger for a little bit. But like, you might be the, only one with futuristic. Let's see if anybody else has that one.
I have it too.
Yeah, and so, Miguel has it. And let's see, who else said that? Futuristic. All right. So, yeah, coming back to this futuristic, and then you have analytical. And what I want to say is, as we look at your arranger theme, your futuristic is going to influence your arranger. Your analytical theme that likes numbers and facts and details is going to influence your arranger. See, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 is your achiever. So that's going to have an influence. And your number 5, strategic, which is my number 1. So your arranger theme is going to have a very strong influence. I want to show you something. I want to share it because not a lot of people ever will get to see it. It's something that I created. I didn't do it for every theme, but I took the character and I sort of made a comic strip to kind of explain the theme better. So let's do this for arranger, just as a way of understanding any one of the 34 themes, but we're going to use arranger as our example. It's been said that confusion is merely an order that hasn't yet been understood. Ooh, that's deep. Confusion is an order that hasn't yet been understood. Those words were likely uttered by an arranger because he, in this case, it's the character as a he, experiences chaos as opportunity to find the perfect order of things to produce the desired results. So the arranger has an intuitive sense for how things can fit together. It's a spontaneous ability to rearrange the present reality to bring about the desired reality. People, processes, objects can be sequenced in just the right way to work together better. The arranger jumps into the fray and sorts out the many variables with confidence. He is the juggler, the conductor, the alchemist, the chaos whisperer. I forgot. Okay, slow down, Adam. All right. All his efforts are meant to produce the best configuration to produce the desired results. That's what it is. I want the results, and the way to get the results is put everything in the right order. Look at the artwork. Beautiful. It makes me hungry. All right. When chaos strikes back, the arranger may become too confident. And see, every theme has another side to it. So the arranger may become too confident in his ability to handle whatever comes his way. His reliance on the adrenaline of the chaotic present can appear as a high wire act. At any moment, he could finally be cutting things too close to the wire, too finely arranged. And the arranger's intuitive sense for how things should be configured may go unspoken. Other people may come along and mess up the arranger's balance and ways they have things set up because the arranger never explained the arrangement. So what is the key? Planning too far in advance doesn't allow the arranger to fully account for variables that can only happen in the moment. The arranger thrives on present realities and may not strive for long-term solutions, except in your case, you do, because you have futuristic as your number 2. You do strive for long-term solutions. But the key to the arranger is to articulate the harmony of precision that you intuitively see, explain it to others so that they can lend their talents to it. So just remember, arrangers intuitively find the best configuration of people, processes, and objects. The perfect arrangement is going to be obvious to the arranger, but it may not be obvious to others. That's the key. Arrangers enjoy the freedom of doing a project how they see fit, and they may not think to get input from other people. Sometimes they just want to organize it for themselves. Anyway, so you can kind of see arrangers should seek out projects that require turning chaos into order. They are good at that. Arrangers should make sure they aren't creating unnecessary complexity, though. Arrangers benefit from pairing with those who prioritize well, people who are good at prioritizing and think long-term. Arrangers may rely too much on their ability to figure things out as they go. So take care not to become too overburdened with too much chaos at once. So any of that resonate for you as we read through this cartoon strip on the arranger? I bet you didn't know there was a cartoon strip for arranger. Tatiana, did that ring true for you?
Oh, for sure, yeah. And when you were speaking, I was already going through and like kind of looking at some of the things that, and I see that sometimes the way things fit in my mind and I see it, but like reading, like kind of what you mentioned, some of the things that people cannot see, or there's some sitting orders already, or people don't see and sort of mess it up. I always remind myself, and something I picked up in the
Yes.
back in undergraduate, this is something that stood out to me. Whenever you write from the perspective of a reader, not just the writer. So I always remind myself, that's great, it makes sense in my head, but how do I communicate this to people? Because I won't be able, and that's where I feel like my strategic comes through me being an achiever, where I realize this is my strength. I know this is, I know, like, I have confidence of how to make things work once I analyze them and I see the strategy, but I have to communicate it because I won't get far if I don't communicate it and don't get people on board. Oh, we lost you.
Yeah, I'm on mute. Yeah, no, I'm back. All right. So we have two other people, Jasmine and how do you say Azucena? How do you say it?
Azucena, she went to the bathroom.
Ah, okay. All right. So help me practice while she's gone so I make sure I get it right. Azucena?
Azucena, yeah.
Did I say that right? Azucena? All right, cool. All right. That's the first time I ever pronounced that. So I want to impress. All right, Jasmine, do you, or is it Yasmin? Yasmin?
Yeah.
Jasmine?
Yeah.
All right. Do you notice the arranger too?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very cool. So one of the keys to this one, and there's several, arranger, strategic, and futuristic. So Tatiana, you have all three, but for others that any of those three, people cannot see your thoughts. Like futuristic, I don't if you have futuristic, nobody can see that what you futurize. If you have strategic, nobody can see the strategies you create. And if you have arranger, nobody sees the configurations you have in your head for how things should fit together. So that means it's easy for people to mess up your plans if they don't see your plans. So practice learning to make the invisible visible. Your plans are invisible, so you want to make them visible. Do you know the phrase like leave a trail of breadcrumbs? You leave a trail of breadcrumbs so you can find your way back. So it's like you need to leave a trail of breadcrumbs for people to follow your thoughts, right? They cannot see your thoughts, so you make a trail of breadcrumbs, and then they can follow. And that's what we do. That's how we can use how we manage our themes, manage our patterns better, is learning to communicate, to express, hey, here's how I think this should all fit together, so that they know and they don't mess up your arrangements. That's just a little thought. All right. So getting back into this, Tatiana, thank you very much for being the first pickle, by the way. Other things that you read in there, anybody have another example of something they read that resonated for them, that they underlined? Yes. I saw somebody in the back. I thought raised their hand. Maybe they were fixing their sleeve.
It's Crystal. I got learner as my second one, and what stood out where it says, you are energized by the steady and deliberate journey from ignorance to confidence. And that's really big on me, because even if I don't know a lot, I pride myself on knowing a little bit of everything. If I don't I'd rather know a lot about everything, but I'm one person.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely a learner. Like I always say, if I could be in school for the rest of my life, I would. I just enjoy
Very good. That's great. And Crystal, there's two Crystals in the room, and both of you have it. And then Latonia, that you have it as your number one too. So learner, there's those three have it. All of us can learn, right? This difference, people with the learner theme, they enjoy the experience of learning. It feels good to them. And that's a huge advantage. I can learn, but learning doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't necessarily, I don't, like, as I'm learning, I'm like, oh, I have to learn. You know, the only reason I learn is because I have to. But people with the learner theme, they learn because they want to. It's an advantage. It's a pattern that they developed early on that they're like, oh, I like the experience of taking in knowledge. It feels good to me. And they become good at it. It becomes easy for them to do. Now, with every pattern, there's the plus side if you harness the plus, but there's the drawback if we don't manage the drawback, or I call it the rut, a rut. You kind of get in a groove or a rut. And the rut for learner is that you never know enough. You always feel like you need to know more. Now, you probably end up knowing more than most people who don't have learner. But because you have a learner, you're like, no, that's not enough. That's not enough. I need to learn more. And that's when it could become a disadvantage. It could, doesn't necessarily. And every theme is like that. The achiever might be so consumed with achieving, they never take a time out to relax or to celebrate, or they might neglect relationships if they're not careful. The responsibility person might take on so much on their shoulders that they burn themselves out. And if people around them, it feels like they're taking advantage of you. Because maybe they are. Because you're taking it on. You volunteered. Why wouldn't? Oh, okay, you must want to do it. Maybe you do. So our themes, all of our themes have ruts, and the learner theme has that one where you never feel like you know enough. But the ability to absorb things naturally and easily is a real advantage. Any reactions? Anybody with learner want to talk about that? All right. What we're going to do, I'm just going to show you a couple of things, and then we're going to take a break. All right. Well-deserved break. So let me just keep moving on. So basically, you know, we see the group in the room. We see like 2 developers, 2 Harmony, 3 includers. This is my number 34. There is a way you can unlock all 34 of your themes. You don't have to take it again, but you just have to pay them like, I don't know, 30, 40 bucks. So my number 34 is includer, and that shapes my life, you know, that I don't always think to include. My number 2 is individualization. None of you have that one. 4 positivity, 3 relators. So 3 of you place very high priority on your relationships. It does not mean you get along with everybody. In fact, it kind of means that you have a few people you get along with, and you're very selective about who you relate with. So the relator theme, they are picky because when they relate with people, they relate deeply and strongly with people. They don't want to make a bad investment. So if they, relators, if someone's ever messed with you or violated your trust, you might go, they're dead to me. Does that resonate? Yeah. Let's see, who are my relators in the room? We've got Charlie, you are a relator. We've got Salma, you have relator, and we've got Latonia, you're a relator. So it doesn't mean you relate with everybody. It means when you connect with somebody, they're your people. Like they're like extensions of you. Their well-being matters to you as much as your own well-being. Yeah, that's a relator. You can't do that with everybody though. So it's a few people, but that's the relator theme. That's the pattern there. So people with relator, they might be standoffish at first until they know they can trust you. Whereas Salma, you also have the woo theme, which is unusual to have both woo and relator, because woo does like everybody. Woo does want everybody to be their friend and will win everybody over. That's what it stands for. Winning. Woo stands for winning others over. It's the only one that's an acronym. All right, so just wanted to show you guys what you look like as a group and how to look at some of these, the team grid, I call it. In this category, there's only two people. There's only one of you has activator, one of you has woo, and none of the others have any. And that's kind of not surprising, because command is the rarest one, self-assurance is the second rarest one, significant is the third rarest one, and nobody wants anybody with competition or communication or maximizer. I'm kidding. But activator means I want to get started. I don't like sitting in meetings. I don't like talking about things. I like to get started. The best thing to do is to start. We'll figure it out as we go. I've been doing that my whole life. It works great. Who's my activator? Who am I talking about? Miguel, is Miguel there? Miguel, am I describing you?
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, I get it. It's high for me. It's my number 7 or 8 activator, and it's just I want to get things going. Let's not talk about it too much. But you also have the context. Oh, you have an unusual combo too, Miguel. You have the context theme as your number 1, which means you love to know the origins of things. Where did this come from? Why are we doing this? Why does this matter? It's kind of like purpose is very important to you. What's the purpose? We talked about purpose earlier. But you also have the futuristic theme as well. You're the other person that has it. Futuristic, which is, this is about, maybe context is about the past, but obviously futuristic is about the future. So you cover both past and future. And that's pretty interesting. And then you have the activator, which is like, can we just get started? Let's just get going. I want to start. All right, let's stop talking about it. Let's do it. Yeah. Developer, let's see how many other developers are here. Developer, Brianna, it's your number 1. So this means you love to develop the potential in other people. You develop other people. It doesn't make sense to most people. Why do you care about other people's potential? But you do. You're like, you could be doing this so much better. You could be getting there better. You could, why aren't you being more true to your purpose? How can we help you get more to your future? And how do we help you get started now? Let's quit talking about it. You talk too much. Not you, Miguel, but other people around you. It's like, and so any of that sound familiar? Does that sound anything like what it's like in your head?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I keep saying I want to move forward, but I can't stop talking about these themes. All right, just real quick. So we did this here. We did this activity. Now there's another report. It's called your, let's see, your theme insight guide, I think it's called.
I have a question.
Yes.
That the last slide or the one before, the purple, the last theme, we can't see the top of it because when you minimize it, like it cuts it off. I'm just wondering what it is. Yeah, the purple. What is the purple?
It's so I don't know if you can see the tops up here. It says relating, influencing, thinking, executing.
Executing is the only one I couldn't see. That was my question.
Good. Yeah. So Gallup has these themes broken up into groups. Sorry about it blocking you. But yeah, purple is executing. So what Gallup, this is from Gallup, the company that created this, and they're saying that the blue themes are more about relationship building. The yellow or gold themes are more about influencing. The green ones are more about thinking, what they call strategic thinking, which is weird for me because isn't there a theme called strategic? Oh, yes, there is. So it's the only, like, why doesn't any of the other themes get mentioned up in the titles? And then you have the purple ones that say executing, and that basically the idea is that these themes are meant that you execute more. But I personally disagree with Gallup on this. I think that the benefit of the colors is that it helps me divide them up and learn them better. But the truth is that any of these themes can help you execute. Any of them you can pick any of these themes and it can help you execute. Any of these themes can help you think. I mean, I can look at any one of these themes and see how it helps me think better. In fact, deliberative, nobody has this one, but I think this might even make more sense as putting it in the thinking category. Any theme can be used for any activity. That overrides the colors. Any one of these 34 themes, you can use it toward any activity in your life. And that's what matters. You can use it toward executing, you can use it toward thinking, you can use it toward influencing, you can use any theme toward relating, you can use any theme to be a better public speaker, you could use any theme to be a better student or tennis player. Any theme can be used to make any activity better. And that's what I want you to take from this is you have 5 themes. Don't wish for any of the other ones in your top 5. Learn about your top 5 and how to harness them better. Can we take a 10-minute break?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So somebody with responsibility, set a timer for 10 minutes. Please. All right. I'm going to turn my camera off. I'm going to put things on pause and I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. All right. All right. How are we doing so far? Any feedback? Anything that that's clicking for you or any questions you have so far?
No.
All right. Perfect. All right. So back to what do the colors mean? The order is a little different here than what I was showing you earlier, but executing themes, what Gallup means is that, you know, they know how to make things happen. So that's that there. Influencing themes are about taking charge, speaking up, making sure the group is heard. But if you don't have any influencing themes, does that mean that you won't take charge or speak up? If you don't have any executing themes, does that mean you don't know how to make things happen? You see what I mean? They overplay their hand with this, Gallup does, is my view. And I'll tell them that. I'll tell them that to their faces. I'm just kidding. Well, like relationship building, it helps the group become more than the sum of its parts. You know, it's like the mortar between the bricks, so to speak. Strategic thinking is about absorbing, analyzing information, and helping the team make better decisions. So that's generally the idea of each of the themes. Like I said, I see these membranes as more than semi-permeable. I don't think these are really that, these distinctions, these walls don't really hold up. But for me, it's a great way to help learn all 34 of these. You know what I mean? That's a lot. And by the way, you don't have to learn all 34 right now. We just want you to learn your top 5. That's it. As you know, as you learn other people, you know, people you're close to, if you have a significant other, take the Strengths Finder, or you know your boss's themes, you'll see how the other themes operate more and more. But it's overwhelming to learn all 34 at one time, and I didn't. I just started with my own top 5. And some clicked for me, some in my top 5 clicked for me. And then there's others that took longer for me to understand. I have the input theme and let's see, how many people have that one here? Crystal E has that one. Who else? Anybody else have input? Yeah, Jasmine, you have input. So the input theme was the one that was hardest for me to learn. And it took me a while, but once I read the description, I was able to learn it more. So don't just go by what you think the word means, actually read the definitions. That's why I'm glad we did that. All right. So, so that's what the categories mean. All right, these are 2 resources you have. You should see one of them. It's a 2-pager. There's 2 pages. It has the theme and the definition to it. And then the other one is just, I think you have this one too. It's what are the priorities of the theme? Like it's just meant to be a really quick way to just see what is the essence of the theme. So what is one that some people have in the room? I don't know if anybody has restorative. I think this is Heather Womack's number 1. Repairing what's broken. Like just, that's a little catchphrase right there. You're like, all right. Or we talked about the arranger theme up here, optimal configuration. We talked about that one. Achiever, getting things done or accomplishment or whatever. Activator, let's get things started. You see the difference? Achiever wants to get something done. Activator's like, I want to get things started. Adaptability, I don't think anybody has that one. Analytical, precision. Like I want, if there's little details missing, I'm going to notice because it's not precise. There's gaps in the logic. So it's a pretty cool thing. There's other resources you have, but these are just meant to get you started. All right. And then this is a poster that we created. We created all these characters, me and my team. And so we just have this as you know, you might see this laying around. Each visual is meant to tell you the story of the theme. And, you know, like, you know, it's just kind of cool. All right. We already took our break, so don't try to sneak another one. What I want to talk to you now is this. This to me is so important because people are like, well, what do I do with this information? What do I do with it? And I'm going to tell you as plainly as I can tell you. And I don't know, or I'll just ask if it matters or if it might not sound like a big deal. I'm just going to tell you and you tell me how it strikes you. But here's what you're meant to do with this. In life, you have outcomes you want to meet. We talked about this earlier. You have relationship goals, you have career goals, you have financial goals, health goals, home life, things you want, all outcomes you want. Well, there's only one thing that produces outcomes, and that is activities. If you perform the right activities, you'll get the outcomes. Like, I want to get in better shape, but it doesn't matter. If I don't perform the right activities, I won't get in better shape. It's just a fact. It's just night follows day. Doing the right activities produces the right outcomes. Does that make sense? It's another thing that is so basic, but we don't talk about it. But if we understood it, we could make our lives better. Like the patterns. If we understood that we are patterns, knowing that earlier, boy, that would be great to know. We can make our lives better because the patterns of our lives account for so much of the results we have. Well, same here. The activities we perform determine so much of the results we have in life. So why are we performing the activities we're performing? Are we performing the right activities? And are we performing those activities at the right level? So hear what I'm saying. If you want outcomes, you got to perform the right activities at the right level. Does that make sense? What's your reaction to that? Boring, obvious?
Obvious.
Good. Good. All right. So what you're meant to do with these themes then is apply them to the activities you perform. Does that make sense? When you have to perform activities, how could you use these themes to help you do it better? So do you have to communicate with loved ones? How do you communicate better? Do you have to organize your time? Is that an activity you have to do? How could you use your themes to organize your time better? You see, whatever your job is that you'll be performing, what are the activities you need to do in order for you to perform the job well? That's how you're going to be graded. That's how we all are. That's how docs, that's how patients, that's how staff, your teammates are going to assess you, is how well are you performing the activities you were hired to do. So I'm saying use these themes, use these patterns toward any of those activities. Learn how to do that. Does that make sense? Because I've said this message so many times to so many different groups in so many different ways that I haven't locked in the right way to do it. But you have these patterns. They're not going anywhere. They're with you for life, probably. Learn about them and then use them to perform the activities that will get you the things you want in life. What's going to help you get what you want in life? Performing the right activities. There's only one other option. If it's not performing activities, the only other way you get what you want in life is luck. luck can happen. You might buy the right lottery ticket. You might meet the one right person that just will make everything right. Luck happens, but it's a bad strategy is your number one strategy. The best strategy for getting what you want is to perform the right activities and perform them at the right level, because you can perform the right activities, but way underperform. There's some activities you might overperform and you waste your resources, because that's what activities do. Activities are your resources. You spend your resources on activities. Everything you do. How much time did you spend on your phone over break? How much did that resource cost you, the phone, and then the time you spent on it? Everything else you could have done it was the cost of what you spent your time on the phone doing. I tell my students, I work with high school students in a leadership program, and I tell them that but by the time they're my age, which is 52, I'm 52 years old, by the time those 16-year-olds are 52-year-olds, they will have spent 4 years on a device. Not 4 years as in all day, 4 years as in 24 hours a day for 4 years. Of that time from their age to my age will be spent on a device if their current trends hold. If the data for how much time teens spend on a device holds, that's how much time they will spend. That's a lot of resource on an activity that we don't think about. Your life is made up of activities, and these themes, these top 5 themes, they're little engines that can make you perform these activities better if you learn to use them the right way. All right, so that's what I'm showing you here in this diagram. In this diagram, this is basically saying your level of performance in a given activity, your level, in this case, strength is very high level. Strength is a very high level of performance. So it's consistent and near perfect performance in a given activity. If you want to have that level of performance, you need 3 things. You need talent that you apply to the activity. You need knowledge that you apply to that activity. And you need to know the skills or the steps to perform the activity. As you apply your talents to that activity, grow your knowledge in the activity, and develop your skills in that activity, you develop a higher level of performance in that activity. Does that make sense? Perfect. Does anybody, I mean, this is going to be weird. This is going to be a weird question to ask, but it's going to be even weirder to answer, but I would love it if somebody did. Is there something that you're considered very good at? That people who know you are like, you know, you're known for that. You're really good at that. Or do you know somebody that everybody else around that person, like, yeah, that person's known for being really good at that? Does anybody have an example of somebody like that? What's that?
Oh, yeah, I'm really good at talking to strangers.
Say it one more time. You're really good at what?
At like striking up a conversation with strangers.
Oh, beautiful. All right, great. And what's your name?
Crystal.
Crystal. All right, Crystal. With an E or an S?
E.
E. Okay, good. All right, you're really good at striking up conversations. Perfect. All right, so I would say that you're using some of your talents toward that activity, and that you have knowledge about that activity and you know the steps. So for example, if you break the ice with somebody, what's something you know to do? What is one of the first things you know to do?
What do you mean? Like, what do I ask? Like, what do I say?
Exactly. Or even if there's something before you say anything, like, do you do anything before? Is it how you approach them? So it's what you just know what to do, and you might not know, you know, but that's what we're going to find out right now. So yeah, what's one of the first things you do?
I have to like observe, I guess.
Perfect. Yeah, the step number 1 is observe. Why do you observe?
up on the vibes.
Picking up on the vibes. So why do you want to pick up on the vibes? So that you do or don't do what?
So I can know how to approach them, I guess.
Beautiful, right? And then, okay, so you observe, then you approach. What do you do when you approach?
Well, it depends, like, if on the vibes.
Right? Exactly. So if you get let's say the person's shy, what might you do in your approach?
Well, not be loud, like quietly, I'd be like, hey, like, and find something like
Right.
in common or compliment something, or like if you were really shy, I'd be like, hey, has anyone ever told you that you look like Mark Ruffalo? And then you'd be like, no, and then you talk about the whole thing, like, and then we're besties. And then they're besties.
Hey, wait a minute. Somebody said that to me today, I think. No, just kidding. No, that's really great. I mean, there's steps. You might not have thought about it this way before, but there's steps to those activities. And for example, I don't ever think to compliment people. I don't know why. That's just not a move I make. I never walk up to somebody to compliment them. So maybe you taught me a step. I'm just going to walk up to people and just say, has anyone ever told you look like Mark Ruffalo? And then, hopefully she won't be mad at me. That's true. All right. So, but every activity has steps. Now, and you also describe knowledge too, maybe not directly, but you're like, I know that if a person is shy, I know not to be loud. I know not to draw attention to them. So there's knowledge there. And then what I'd be wondering too is like, what did you use? So going back to the formula real quick. So to perform the activity, I'm going to use this here. To perform the activity of breaking the ice, you had steps you followed, there's certain knowledge you had. And then I want to look at your talents. What are talents? Oh, they're patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that you could use toward an activity. So we're going to go up here to Crystal, where achiever is your number one. Is that right? Is this you?
Yes.
Learner, input, responsibility, intellection. So nothing up front says, oh, wow, you're good at breaking the ice. But let's see, do you feel a certain sense of accomplishment when you do that, when you make a new connection?
No.
Okay. Is there anything about your achiever or getting something accomplished that plays a role in making connections? Maybe not at first, maybe not obvious, maybe not at all. I don't know. Let's go to learner. Is there anything that your learner gets a jolt from when doing this? Or does your learner play a role in this activity, in breaking the ice with people?
Yeah, I guess because like every person is like their own world. And I guess I'm learning about that. I'm learning about somebody else.
Right? What a statement. Everybody is their own world. That's not something that everybody says or thinks. So if that's so fundamental to you, everybody's their own world, then that makes sense why you take pleasure in learning about someone else's world, right? Now, when somebody has learner, there's a 40% chance they also have the input theme. So in your case, that's the reason I brought it up. You also have the input theme. Not all the time. Like here's somebody with input that doesn't have the learner theme, or here's someone with learner that doesn't have the input theme. But 40% of the time they co-occur. Context and futuristic almost never co-occur in the top 5. It's rare. So it's kind of interesting. That's why I said his was interesting. Input, this was my number 5. This was the hardest for me to learn. But what input means is it's about you input into yourself. It's not about giving your input. It's not like, oh, I'm going to give my input. It means I input into myself. And so that means you're collecting. And what do you collect? Useful things. That's what input does. Input collects useful things. So does that play a role at all when you're breaking the ice with somebody? Are you collecting anything?
I mean, I guess just facts about them, but it's not necessarily, I also have like a terrible memory, so I'm not gonna remember.
All right, interesting. You have a terrible memory, but I wonder, do you ever recall things that people are like, wow, how did you know that?
What do you mean?
Like people with input are known to have facts that are stored in their head that are obscure.
Yeah, facts I do, but like something like if I ask you like, hey, where'd you get that purse? And they tell me, and then I'll see them a week later, I'm probably gonna ask them again, 'cause I'm not gonna remember.
Okay, you won't remember something like that, but what will you remember from talking to somebody?
You said like facts, like if it's something that's contributing to my knowledge, I'll probably remember.
If it's going to lead to your what?
It contribute to my knowledge of things, and I'll remember.
Beautiful. There you go. Learner input. If it's gonna lead to my understanding of things, my knowledge of things, I'm gonna input it. And that's the 1-2 combination right there. Responsibility is about wanting to follow through on commitments, to make good on what you said. And also it's just really about psychologically investing. Just that phrase. Do you get invested in things psychologically? Do you get invested in people when you meet them?
No, not a whole lot.
Okay. And then intellection, are you looking for like deeper insights when you meet people?
I get like maybe like pieces of information, yeah.
Okay.
But like again, like actual information, like it's more about what you like, what I learn about them that's gonna contribute again to like my knowledge.
Great. That's really great. And then your knowledge, does that help you get things done in life?
Yeah.
There you go. There's your number one. You know, learner support, input supports your learner, responsibility supports your learner, intellection supports your learner supports your achiever is theoretically how I would see it. Now you get to decide ultimately if that's true for you. No assessment can tell you this. Like, I just want to be clear about that. Like, this is no superpower, you know, this strengths finder thing it's just a personality assessment. But if the theory holds true, if this is indeed your number one, then all of these are in service of you getting accomplishments in life, getting accomplishments or achievements, making forward progress, checking things off the box, forward momentum, achievements. Yeah, I keep repeating myself. So there, I'm out of things to say. So that's a way I think about it. Your number one theme sort of helps, you know, encapsulate the others is how I see it. All right. So coming back down here to this slide, the important thing is that there's different levels of performing an activity. You see here, learning to break the ice with people. Some people are oblivious. Let me go to a bigger version of it. Some people are oblivious. They're unaware that breaking the ice even exists. They don't even know. They just stand there like door stoppers. You know, that's all they do. But then some people are aware that there's the activity of breaking the ice, but they don't care to get better at it. Like, I know there's breaking the ice, but I don't want to get better at it. I can't get better at it. I'm no good at it, or it's not worth getting better at, or whatever. They have what's called a fixed mindset about that activity. Do you ever get good at something when you have a fixed mindset about it? Probably not. So learn to spot within yourself the things that maybe someone else wants you to get good at, but you have no desire to get good at. And I bet you that's a sore spot in the relationship. Or something you want someone else to get better at, but they show no interest at it. They have a fixed mindset. Anytime that activity comes up, it's going to be frustrating. Do you guys know what I'm saying? But some people, when you bring their attention to it, they're like, you know what? I can get better at it. I will get better at it. I want to get better at it. Sometimes you just need to say something to somebody. Hey, you know what? It would really help me out if you did this thing a little differently or a little better. Oh, I didn't know it was a big deal. Okay, sure, you bet. They want to get better at it. Versus other people are like, no, I don't care. Or whatever. I don't know. whatever jerk interpretation I want to do. That's what they're like, right? So they're oblivious, fixed mindset. All right, a beginner though, that to me is a world of difference. Anybody who's willing to be a beginner, I can work with. I love a beginner. All right, let's talk about it. Let's help you move up the ladder. I'm willing to look like an idiot. I'm willing to look awkward because it's worth it to me. I want to get better at this. I'm willing to seek coaching. Well, that takes humility. We don't like to humble ourselves, but you know what? When somebody's willing to do that, that tells me a lot. And if they're going to decide to invest, that says a lot to me, because you know what will happen? They're going to get better. You see how the box fills up a little bit? They're basic. Their level of performance in the activity just rose high. For many activities in your life, basic is good enough. How good at taking out the garbage do you really need to be? Do you need to have a strength at it? Do you need to be able to consistently and near perfectly take out the garbage? You know, maybe you just need to perform. What does that even look like? I mean, do you dance on the way perfectly to the garbage can? I have no idea what a strength in taking out the garbage would look like, but whatever. Basic is probably good enough. You know what? Maybe some acts of taking out the garbage take a little bit more competence. Maybe you got to cut up the cardboard into pieces for the trash compact. I have no idea, but maybe. But, you know, you don't need to be strength in a lot of activities. Basic is good enough. Competent, some activities require you, you know what? You got to be better than basic. You just have to. Driving, you really need to be better than basic. You really need to be competent or even advanced. There's some activities that, hey, if you do a lot of typing on a keyboard, you should probably get advanced at the activity of typing. If talking with people a lot is a primary activity, you should probably get at least competent at having a conversation with people, right? Some activities, very few, rely on you to be consistent and near perfect, but some do. But the truth is that you already have activities that you're consistent and near perfect at, but nobody knows it. Or you don't get credit for it. Or if somebody points it out to you, you don't think it's a big deal at all. You dismissed it. Because our strengths hide in plain sight. There are things you've learned to do so well. You do it consistently and near perfectly, but there's not a name for that activity. I have a friend who's consistent and near perfect at observing people's patterns and then learning to harness them. She just gets people to do things, and all she's doing is seeing their patterns and getting them to, you know, do what she wants them to do. There's not really a name for that, you know. Now, she's a nice person, she does it to help people, but she's a pattern manipulator. Is there a word for that, or is that a common thing? You know, this ability to break ice or make connections with people, it's not something that just anybody can do. You know, I have a friend like you around who could do that because I don't do it so well. And I would like somebody that knows how to break the ice. When I try to break the ice with people, I'm just weird. It just comes off as weird when I try to do it because, well, there's a lot of reasons, but like one of my themes is called ideation. So I never want to do things in a normal way. So if I break the ice with people, I'm going to like try to be like, oh, I want them to think I'm different or unusual, but that's the worst thing to do for a first impression. So people who are good at breaking the ice are have that ability. And what are they doing to move up the ladder? How do you guys move up the ladder at any of the activities you've ever done? And can anybody think of an activity where they've moved up the ladder? Like they've maybe you didn't get like super high, but you moved up pretty high. Anybody have an activity that comes to mind when they're thinking about it? For me, it's riding electric unicycles. I started riding an electric unicycle a few years ago, and I deliberately had this model in mind, like, because I developed this model. I was like, I'm going to try to move up the ladder. I'm going to go from, I want to be a beginner. And and then I wanted to learn the basics. And then I became competent. And now I'm like competent, advanced at riding an electric unicycle. Anybody have an activity they moved up the ladder on that's not as weird as that? Or weirder? I can stare you down. I'm good. That's an activity I'm better at. No, anybody think of anything like where they're like, yeah, you know, I noticed that over time I got better at doing this thing, cooking or something?
I have a cricket machine that I'm slowly getting better at just because techie stuff is not my strength. So
What kind of machine?
a cricket, it's a craft machine. So I made it a challenge to myself to learn something new like every 2 weeks or so.
That's amazing. Oh my God, that's perfect. And like, because that's just a great example of how we get better at any activity. Either you do it deliberately, like you did, I set goals, or you just sort of have this inward desire to get better at it. So that's a great example. Does anybody else have any activity, like another example? Yeah.
I got better potty training my dogs.
Oh, great. I know it's an obscure activity, but if you do that activity effectively, will that produce the desired outcomes?
Yes, it's been a challenge, and I got two baby golden doodles, so it's been a hard challenge, but I mean it's work, and I have to, pace myself right, because
Very good.
I've been on top of it, very straight with it.
Yes. And are you Azucena?
Before I used to get bored and frustrated really fast, and I will give them away.
Well, we're going to get it to work out. So, but just for the example here of potty training my dogs, right? Or house training my dogs, right? That's the activity. Are there steps you have to do to do that activity?
To create a pattern.
Yes, exactly. You have to follow the steps, and over time, if those steps are a pattern, over time, you've got to show a stable pattern, and you want them to learn the pattern. Great. Is there knowledge you had to learn? Did you have to learn certain knowledge to get better at house training your dogs?
Not being lazy.
Not being lazy, but you probably like there's techniques like books or YouTube videos or anything that'll teach you how to do it better.
Well, at the beginning, I just started off with the pattern, setting myself an alarm and treats, and then about 3 months later, I started YouTubing videos on how to potty train those specific dogs.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you grew your knowledge around this activity. And then what is your name? Perfect. All right, that's what I thought you were. So I want to now look at the third ingredient. What I'm doing so you all can see it, because this is the whole essence of all of it. We want to get better at the activity. See, this is the ladder. We want to move up the ladder, right? Maybe we don't have to get all the way to strength. Maybe we want to get to competent or advanced. At what activity? House training my dog, or using the cricket machine, or whatever. So in order to do it, these are the three things. Use my talents toward the activity, grow my knowledge toward the activity, or learn the steps of the activity and perform the steps better. Maybe there's a step that you're missing, Azucena. Maybe there's another step that you didn't know, but then you watched a YouTube video and they said, oh, make sure to do this step. And you're like, okay, I didn't think to do that before. And now that you do the step, your performance goes up, right? And as your performance goes up, you get the outcomes you want. The outcomes in life you want. Better house-trained dogs, or whatever the cricket machine does, better whatever things it makes, or whatever. So to do it, it just requires following this formula. Use your skills, grow the skills, learn the steps, grow your knowledge. But it's this one here I want to talk about. I keep holding off, building up to. How do we use our talents to get better at the activity? So Azucena, let's look at your top 5 and say, all right, how does the harmony theme help you get better at the activity of house training your dogs? Any thoughts for how your desire for harmony helps with that?
I guess I just myself in love with them. And if I really want to keep them and I get rid of them like all the rest of them, then I have to just have some.
Right? So you got to find harmony. Things are out of harmony. He can't stay. But if you get them into harmony, he can stay. Right? Includer, you want to include him. So that'll come later. You want to, your includer wants you to make the dog welcome. Right? Your positivity is about, I know we can do this. Your arranger is going to put things in order. You're going to try to find the right arrangement, the right treats, the right time of day, the right sequence of doing things. And your context is going to help you learn the background. Okay, let's watch some YouTube videos. Let's learn how we can, what's the background for how we can do a better job at this. But it's also you could create harmony. What do you think of that? Does that make sense, or would you correct anything I said? So if we harness your themes, you'll get better at the activity of house training the dogs, because maybe you aren't using one of your themes. Maybe your positivity, maybe you're using it to be overly optimistic. And maybe you're not training as frequently. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. We just need to look at how do your themes, how can they help you perform the activity better? And that's what we do with these. All right. Any thoughts or reactions to that? Any of that? All right, let's keep going. I want to get you to another activity. So what I want to say is that your talents are natural patterns. They're natural. You don't even have to think about them. When you wake up, your top 5 themes, they're online. They're happening. Your achiever wants to achieve. Your learner wants to learn. Your harmony wants to find harmony. Your relator wants to connect with and do things for the people you love. It's just that those are your natural patterns. Your responsibility is thinking of all the things you got to do and follow through on. It's just natural. So they become so ingrained that you do them automatically. They become automatic. That's what we mean by patterns. Do you see? They're always on. So when you wake up, your patterns are on. And most of the time, that's good. Most of the time, your themes are an advantage for you. They're helping you do things. They're helping you make the toast in the morning while your brain is trying to get jump started. Your patterns are kicking in. And when we understand our own patterns and the patterns of other people, it makes it possible for better relationships. Those things that annoy you will make sense now. Those things that make sense, you might now see the advantage of. And so these are just some of the things that come from learning about StrengthsFinder. What do you think of that? Do you agree? Make sense? Nice, nice. All right. So I want to show you this image here because it's kind of like before I took StrengthsFinder, I didn't know I had these 5 horses, like your top 5 themes. I mean, I wasn't surprised when I learned some of them and read the descriptions, but how do you ever really know? So I had these horses and they were pulling me along. That's me. And usually they work out great. They do a good job. I mean, I got this far in life. You got this far in life, right? But now, since learning my themes, I feel more in control. I feel like my themes aren't just running around doing what they want. They do what I want. So we want to go from the raw to the mature. Does this image make sense? This is what happens. This will help us reach our potential better. It'll help us be happier because we're going to have life more. We're going to understand ourselves better, and we're going to have the situations around us. We're going to be able to organize and arrange things around us to be more appropriate for who we are. It helps you understand why some things frustrate you, why you were never good at some things, and why you were always drawn to other things. Maybe your parents were like, hey, you shouldn't do that, do this instead, because they're trying to help you. They think they're helping you. but they might be pulling you away from what your natural talents are. Our school system does it all the time. We don't know any better. The workplace does it all the time. But what we want to do is try to match people to the right environment, to the right jobs, to the right tasks, to the right relationships. And we got to find the right fit. And that's what this information can do for us. Does that make sense? This is why all of you should care about this. It's why, you know what I mean? It's going to make your lives better, and you should teach it to the people around you that you care about. So go, because the more you go from raw to mature, the more you're able to perform activities better. And the more you perform activities better, if they're the right activities, the more they're going to produce the outcomes in life that you want. This is the secret. I mean, like, it's not magic. This isn't like, you know, for people who are like law of attraction and all that stuff, it's not just mystical, it's actual. It's if you do the right activities at the right level, you'll get the outcomes you want. If you don't have the outcomes you want in life right now, it may be because you're not performing the right activities at the right level. And that should come as very good news. I know it might not seem like it at first, but why is it good news that if you're not getting the outcomes you want in life, a lot of it has to do with you not performing the right activities at the right level? Why is that good news? I'm mentally sending you the answer. Don't make me think I'm not a psychic. Somebody help me out. That's right. Somebody was thinking of the answer. I detect it. Somebody was saying, because Adam, because if I can apply my themes to the right activities, I can perform them better. That means it's within my control. If I want outcomes in my life, that means all I have to do is figure out the right activities and perform them at the right level. I'm so glad you pointed that out to us, Adam. You're so smart, and you look like a famous movie star. You look like Brad Pitt. Was that it? No, I got Mark Ruffalo. Okay, that's fine. Mark Ruffalo's good. I'll take that one. No, but like, do you guys see what I mean? Why it's good news? If you're not getting the outcomes you want in life, all you have to do is perform the right activities at the right level, and that's within your ability to do. What's your reaction to that? Not telepathic this time, like actual outward. I want to see if you're tracking with me.
This is exciting and encouraging because some of the things that I could have considered as my weakness is actually just the talent that I need to harness and kind of achieve
Right?
results right way. It's like using the knife the other way around. You think, oh, knife is not cutting, you're just holding it from the wrong end.
What a great example. I love it. Yes, it should be encouraging. Yes. And we all have activities we're not good at. There's the ratio of activities that I'm like really good at to the amount of activities I'm really, really bad at. Okay. Muy malo. I have a really bad ratio between what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. But that's okay. That's normal. We're all that way. There's just an infinite number of activities. But if we learn to identify the ones we're really good at and we harness them, we could build our lives around it. We could build our reputations around it. People know, oh, if you want this done, go to so-and-so. They're consistent and near perfect at it. And that's within your ability to do. You can develop your expertises. This is what I tell my students in high school. I know it's weird, but I'm like, would you rather have a job or a career? And they're like, a career. And I'm like, why? And because a career, you know, there's more opportunity, more prestige. You're less replaceable. You're still replaceable, right? So then I say, what would you rather have, a career or an expertise? And they've never really thought about that before, because what does that mean? But I'm like, what you really want is an expertise, or many expertises, because no one can take an expertise from you. You will always have it. You have control over your development of an expertise. You don't always have control over your career. You have more influence over your career than, say, over a job, you see? So move toward expertises. Like I've developed an expertise around StrengthsFinder, for example. Like I got certified in Gallup, but not just that. I would read exhaustively. And I'm not somebody who likes to learn, remember, like I was saying earlier, but I really loved learning about StrengthsFinder. And so that moved me up the ladder. And if it's the right activities, then, you know, like it makes me happy to do it. And I can earn a livelihood doing it. And the people who learn about it benefit from it. So it kind of like meets that intersection of like all of these things. It's a Japanese word called ikigai. Ikigai. It means kind of like your life purpose. It's like, what do I love? What can I get paid for? What am I good at? And what does the world need? You know, and where do those four intersect? And that's your ikigai. What do I love? What can I get paid for? What am I good at? And what does the world need? You know, so you think about it, like if you're called to nursing, right? Like, wow, I mean, you can check a lot of boxes there. You could earn livelihood by healing people and improving their lives. And you love it and you're good at it, you know? So that's what these themes can tell you about yourself. They help describe, what do you love? I love information. I love when, you know, we could just look at things. We could just pull anyone's top 5, and I'm way off the agenda, so I probably shouldn't be recording this because Thea will kill me. But I mean, this is the stuff. I mean, let's look at somebody. Is the other Crystal there with restorative?
Right here.
Where are you? Just raise your hand one more time. Oh, okay, cool. All right, let's talk about this for a moment. You're restorative. I love to bring things back to life. I like to fix things that are broke. Do you like to fix everything that's broke? Maybe not. Maybe there's some things that you're drawn to. Is there anything that comes to mind as I say that?
Just like when I looked at restorative, I was like, what does that mean? And it basically is like my life motto. Like basically anything I put my mind to, I can do. So if where there's a will, there's a way. So there's always a way of maneuvering things, fixing things to where it makes it happen for you.
That's great. Yeah, I think I have weird images in my head for each theme, and I sort of have like the Vanilla Ice song from the 80s, you know? If there's a problem, yo, I solve it. Check out the hook while the DJ revolves. That's restorative to me, right? If there's a problem, yo, I solve it. That's the restorative sort of like mantra. Like all I have to do is say, this isn't working. And people with restorative are like, you know, they're like the prairie dogs. They're like, what, a problem? You know, and then, you know, and that's what it is. It's an impulse. And you have strategic, and that's my number 1, as I said. So you see pathways for how to get there. And it's hard to describe to people this way of thinking, but it's a constant and it's very fast. If this, and then, okay, then we need to do this. And everybody else is like, well, wait, why? Why do we need to do that? You know, and you're like, because this will lead to all sorts of other things. I've played it out in my head. I'm Dr. Strange, and I know there's 14,501 ways we lose and only one way we win. And I've done it all in my head because I'm strategic. Does that make sense? Does that click for you, Crystal? Yeah. And then the learner is like, you know, I want to know more. I can know more. I want what's all going on here. Let's absorb the information. And the responsibility theme is like, I need to be good to my word, and I need to make sure that I follow through on what I say I'm going to do. And then intellection is, I'm looking for wisdom and deeper insights. I have this one as well. It's my number 4. And so this is what it's like inside your mind. So find the things that allow you to solve problems. You're a problem solver. I mean, you like to figure things out. You're not afraid by complexity. You know, you will take it upon your shoulders to see it through. Yeah, when I look at this profile, I'm like, all right, Crystal is clearly, let's see what I did there. Crystal is the clear choice for solving problems. Is that true? Does that sound like you? If it needs a cricket machine, does that even amp it up even more? What does a cricket machine do? What is this thing?
It just makes different craft things, invitations, because when we do parties, my family looks to me because I'm like a crafty person as well. So I'm always solving and making things for them. So.
This is so perfect. You're totally describing like the patterns and where it came from. And were you born this way? These are the questions, like, was I born this way? Where did these patterns come from? And my best, it's the nature versus nurture argument we talk about with kids all the time. Were you born this way? Is there something in the coding and the DNA that made its way through? Or is it that while you're here, you learned it? You're a blank slate and you're like tabula rasa is the word for it, a blank slate. And then you've developed the patterns. And I think it's a mix of both, but the pattern side of it is really key. The learning part of it, I think it happens like this. When you're young and you're learning the world through language and you're learning adults and what they talk about and understanding, I don't know. And then, you're figuring out all that stuff. And these are the patterns we've learned early on that, if I can lean into a problem and work through a problem patiently, life is good. So that's where restorative pattern comes from. The strategic pattern, if I can see where things are going, then I can make decisions now that make best use of resources. And probably almost no one else in the room understands what I just said, but maybe you do. Right? Like, that's the strategic theme. And so you learn early on that these things work. But let's say Crystal E, same name, different inner experience. Well, you both have learners, so that's in common. But you both have responsibilities, so you have that in common. Oh my God, maybe you are the same person. You both have intellection, okay? But one has achiever and one has restorative, so that's going to look a little different. The achiever is going to look more like doing. I don't know. Holy cow, this is crazy. You might be doppelgangers or twins, which is the same thing. You might be, who knows? But it's pretty cool. But achiever, I don't know. It might look the same as restorative because restorative wants to fix things. That's how they get things done. And achiever is willing to just work hard and push forward to get things done. But they both want to get things done. So this is cool. Anyway, let's pick someone else not named Crystal. Is that Salma leaving the room?
Yeah, that's
All right, we'll don't worry, no worries. We'll do Brianna. Who's Brianna?
I'm here.
Where?
Here.
I can't see. Well, wait. The one that just waved.
Salma.
Okay, well, we're going to go back to Salma then because I can't. All right, ideation. My number one theme, my number three theme. Your number one theme. Ideation means that there's so many ways we could go from here to there. It's incredible. There's so many possible ideas, infinite combinations. Most people, they think in like terms of a 2-lane highway. Ideation has like 6 or 8 lanes that they think, a lot of width, a lot of creativity, a lot of innovation. They love to make connections between things that most people wouldn't even connect. They're very creative. Is that you, Salma? Are you a creative person?
Yeah.
In what ways does it show up?
In a lot of different ways. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but an example, like my sister's wedding, she had one idea and I had like more than 10 ideas. And she didn't like none of them, but whatever. But yes, I am.
It's beautiful though. Yeah, lots of ideas. Does it ever feel like it's too much?
Yes, and I don't know which one. Yes, almost all the time.
I can relate to this. Yes. But also, ideas are always there, right? Like you're never short of ideas. And so your image is this person like in a boat with a bunch of fish, right? On your diagram. And that's what it is for me. Ideation is like over my head, there's a river flowing, and in that river is fish, and those fish are ideas. And whenever I need an idea, I just reach up and grab a fish. It's just always, there's a constant stream of ideas and it's hard to turn off. And so sometimes I ideate when people don't want more ideas. Sometimes they're like, no, Adam, please stop. No more ideas. We just need to pick an idea and go with it. Do you ever have that?
Yes, at work.
Right? So I try to learn to match that to the phase of the project. If we're in brainstorming phase, I ideate. If we're in execution phase, I try to, it's hard. I try to tone it down more. So Salman, let's see, you also have includer. So you love to welcome people and you have woo. You're very social this way. Is that right? There's always room for more people.
Yes.
Yeah. Is very good. Intellection is more of an inward quality. You have this deep side to you that people may not see. They may even see you as a little shallow, surprisingly, you know, but maybe, I'm not saying they do, it depends. I don't know you well enough yet, but intellection means you're definitely about the depth and what do things mean? And so there's a rich inner life, especially between ideation and intellection. The combination there is very rich. It's deep and wide. So it's like a cavern of creativity, but people may not see it. People can't see it. They can't see what happens inside a person's mind. And then your last one is relators. So, you know, you have a close-knit circle of people that really matter to you. You know a lot of people because your woo means you meet a lot of people, but of that, there's a small group that really matter, the circle of trust. Yeah. Very good. So that's what I love. I love talking about these themes because they describe our patterns and what we're like and what happens inside of us. So as we go through life, we can harness these patterns. That's what we do with these. I'm going to introduce you to the coin model here, because what are you supposed to do to go from raw to mature? What do you do to go from this crazy setup to this nice and in control setup? You go through this sequence. I want you to connect to your top 5 themes. I want you to understand them. I want you to memorize them. I want you to see how they play out. So that means I want you to be able to observe them. But you cannot observe them if you don't connect to them. If you don't memorize them, if you don't even remember or know what they're about or remember them, then you're not going to observe them in your day-to-day. I want you to be able to observe them in a meeting. I want you to be able to observe them like, have they happened right now? Is Miguel like, come on, we got to take a break soon. I want to activate. I don't want to sit here all day. which I would sympathize with, you know, and yes, we will soon. We'll get there. You know, so we need to connect with our themes so we could observe our themes so that we could learn to interrupt them, hit the pause button. Not all the time and not even most of the time, just sometimes when our themes get in the way, when your responsibility theme makes you about to volunteer for something you have no time for, when your harmony theme makes you avoid an uncomfortable confrontation that we need to talk about something. You know, when your intellection theme makes you think about things too deeply to the point where you might be hurting yourself by thinking about it that deeply. To learn to interrupt the theme. Wait a minute, I don't need it right now. It's just a pattern. I can interrupt a pattern. And then after we get good at doing that, then it's just a matter of like dialing it into the right level. It's not all the way on or all the way off. It's, oh, this is a volume knob. We could dial it up or we could dial it down. I remember this kid told me one time, a teacher told him this. This guy, he would talk all the time in class and he was loud. And his teacher pulled out a ruler and said, listen, you're speaking with your 12-inch voice. I need you to speak with your 1-inch voice. And like this gave that person oh, I didn't know. I thought everything was just full blast. No, we could dial things up or dial it down. And so you could do that with your themes. Does that make sense? Can you see how dialing your ideation or your restoration, like you might want to dial down your restorative theme. There's times you would want to do that. And there's times you want to dial it up. There's times you want to dial down your achiever. Yes, that's what I said, achievers. There's time to dial it down. No, can't stop. won't stop, got to achieve more, got to do more, got to be more. No, you can stop, you can watch a movie, you can take time out to relax and breathe. But you know what? If someone's going to make you watch a movie, it's not such a bad thing if you want to fold the laundry or something. Fine, achieve. Does that make sense? Achievers do that, you know. All right, how are we doing over there? I'm not in the room with you, so what's the vibe? Are you learning about yourself? Are you getting things you could use to understand yourself better?
Yes.
Because that's the most important thing. Most important thing. All right, let me just do a little bit more. We'll take a break here. All right, so the coin model is how we're going to go from raw to mature. That's kind of what we're going to be spending the rest of our time on. We're going to be really doing things to mostly do these two, connect and observe. So let's see, connecting. All right, we'll do that when we come back. You guys want to take another 10-minute break? Yeah, let's do. Set the timer. I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. All right, so yeah, we're talking about performance and realization, the ability to realize our goals or realize our outcomes. To make the outcomes we want real, we need to perform the right activities at the right level. And to me, that's like the best answer, because I've been looking, y'all, I'm 52, and if there's something that's been a common thread throughout those 52 years, at least the adult years, it's a quest for like, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, like, what's the point? And all of this, you know? And so for me, it's about thriving. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to thrive between birth and death. You know, which is where we all are, coincidentally. We're all between the phases of birth and death, and that's very good. It's a very good thing. It's not that common, it turns out. There's a lot more people who are on the other side of birth and death than are in between them. All right. But while we're here, what do? I think there's two states we could be in while we're here. I'll just show you, because I have a diagram of it, and it's not part of this, but since I'm on a tangent, you all are welcome to it, to my tangent. Because this is also part of ideation too. We connect a lot of things all the time. So you're hearing a lot of ideation from me. But what I wanted to show you is this here. Okay, between birth and death, or beginning and ending of anything. It could be a person, it could be a relationship, it could be a business venture. There's a beginning. You're beginning your career at HPH. At some point, hopefully not for a long time and under great circumstances, there will be an ending, you know. But what do you want to do? Do you want to survive in between, or do you want to thrive? And this is true for anything in life. People are at very low levels of survival, and if they fall below a certain level, they go over here. But otherwise, we can move up to higher levels of survival and higher levels of thriving. And I think using our themes is one way to do it. I think our themes in StrengthsFinder help us know what thriving looks like. And I'll show you why that is when we get into the alignment meter, which is where I think we're going soon. All right. Any thoughts or reactions to any of that so far? Or anything we've talked about? Are we doing all right?
Yes.
All right. Just bringing it back to the big picture. We're patterns, and we can harness these patterns in ways that make our lives better. That's kind of the summary of it. And StrengthsFinder identifies 34 different patterns. There's more patterns out there. There's other patterns, but this is a really good collection of them. So it's a good place to start. It's a very good place to start for patterns. All right, where are we? Which slide deck? Okay. We're down here, down here, down here, down here, down here. All right, raw versus mature. This is a handout you have where you could look at your top 5 and go, all right, what does it look like to be raw, and what does it look like to be more mature? And what we want to do through the coin model. Do you remember what coin stands for? Do you remember what the C stands for? Connect. Thank you. Oops, I can't even spell coin. Connect, observe, interrupt, nuance. And that's how we move from raw to mature. That's what we've been talking about so far. It's your own personal journey. You put into it what you want. I think it's worth it to learn more about these themes, get more familiar with them, connect with them more, so you can observe them more. And then you'll learn to interrupt them more, and then you'll learn to nuance them more. So that's the journey from raw to mature. And we go, that's the coin route. All right. Connecting is the first part of coin. Connecting, this little thing, it shows all these little connecting points. So this is connecting, and it's 5 of them. So we want to interconnect all 5 of our themes. That's why that image is there. Ooh, iconography is so cool. Connecting to our themes. We want to understand them and we want to memorize them. That's right. Does anybody have their top 5 memorized yet? It's okay if you don't. I'm not expecting you do, but just wanted to ask. I came up with a technique for memorizing. That's what we're going to do next. It's a little boring, but make it fun, and then it won't be boring. It's actually going to be fun, and it can be fun. This actually can be fun. So I don't know why it was said it was boring. Don't think that way. It's fun. Important to moving forward in applying our talents. We need to connect in order to move forward, and we need to connect. One way to do that is keep them visible. So you could take a screenshot of your top 5 diagram. And you could put it on your screensaver. There's an app. You could get the StrengthsFinder app for whichever system you use is fine. They have it for both Android and iOS. And it has a whole bunch of information on there at all times. So when you're standing in line to get a pretzel, you can read up on your top 5 themes. You see, they thought of everything. But let's bring it back to memorize. That we have something to help us memorize. A tool is called a mnemonic. Ooh, what a cool word. A mnemonic, it begins with an M and an N. Mnemonic. It's mnemonic. What you're going to do is you're going to write in your top 5 themes in here. Writing them helps you remember them. Achiever, responsibility, Then you're going to construct a memorable phrase using each letter of your top 5. So let's see, I already started using one person's. Let's see, achiever, responsibility, strategic, relator, focus. Okay, help me remember that. Strategic, relator, focus, strategic, relator, focus, strategic, relator, focus. All right. So I'd want to try to come up with a phrase that helps incorporate these, something memorable, something that, is visual, something like anchors rely, anchors really strengthen righteous feelings. See how I did that? It was a stupid sentence. But that was just off the cuff. As you kind of refine it more, maybe you form a sentence. Here's one he came up with in Rock and Roll High School for individualization, relator, responsibility, harmony, self-assurance. Another person, I really love this one. It was one of my high school students. She had futuristic, focus, discipline, input, competition. Her mnemonic was fancy frogs dance in clogs, which are kind of shoe for dancing, could be for dancing. But I love the image, a fancy frog. What does a fancy frog look like? A dancing frog, okay, wearing these clogs. I could picture it, and then if I can remember the phrase, then it could help me remember my top 5 themes. So that's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I'm going to pick another groovy song. I don't know what it's going to be. You're probably going to hate it, but it's going to make you focus on the activity of thinking of a phrase, some mnemonic. Now, there's other examples if you'd rather do it visually, if you want to think of a visual that helps you for each of your 5 themes and then draw a picture that brings them together. If that's how you flow, then do it. That's all good. It's the whole goal is for you to remember your top 5, whatever's going to help you remember. Does that sound good? Are you with me or are you against me? Because if you're not with me, you're against me. I'm just kidding. I used to have a manager that would say that. Adam, we're going to move that display from there to there. Are you with me or are you against me? Because if you're not with me, you're against me. I'm with you, Mike. I'm with you all the way. We're going to move that. All right. Oh, I know what we're going to do. There's a there's a theme song. There's a video I made, if I can find it, that plays the 34 themes. All right, hold on. But anyway, you guys can start now. Take 5 minutes to come up with your mnemonic. And if I find this video or song to play, you'll be entitled to it. Yeah, here we go. I am responsible for the production of this, so I take full credit.
Hey, what's up? This is J.I. in partnership with Talent to Strength, and I have a little something for all you Clifton Strengths Finders enthusiasts out there. This is going to help you remember Gallup's 34 themes in order. First time through, I'll take it nice and slow, but pay attention because I'm going to pick it up, all right? You should be singing along by the time we finish, so pay attention. Ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, go! Achiever, activator, adaptability, analytical, arranger, belief, command, communication, competition, connectedness, consistency, context, deliberative, developer, discipline, empathy, focus, futuristic, harmony, ideation, includer, individualization, input, intellection, learner, maximizer, positivity, relator, responsibility, restorative, self-assurance, significance, strategic, and woo, woo, woo. Those are your 34 themes. Now I'm gonna pick it up. Voice may sound a little faster, but I'm gonna be going at the same speed. Watch this. Achiever, activator, adaptability, analytical, arranger, belief, command, communication, competition, connectedness, consistency, context, deliberative, developer, discipline, empathy, focus, futuristic, harmony, ideation, includer, individualization, input, intellection, learner, maximizer, positivity, relator, responsibility, restorative, self-assurance.
All right, that was enough. Now I'm going to play some relaxing music for you to finish up. We got about 3 more minutes. Take a few more seconds, maybe 30 more seconds, and we'll help. If anybody needs help, we'll do a little team effort here. It's all good. Just enjoy these last few moments of enchanting forest sounds. Guys, did you know it was going to be so relaxing? That was so relaxing. Anybody need more time? Is anybody willing to share? Can we have a couple people share? That'd be cool. That'd be super brave. All right, we've got a couple. All right, is that Tatiana?
All right, I had to think that I kind of knew, I'm usually visual and I see things like this, I remember things by creating sort of images in my mind. But for me, it's the way I remembered it, even in the first like hour of this class, it's kind of like one is built on top of the other and one is used for the other. So for me, it's a ranger, futuristic, then analyzing, achiever, and strategy. And the way I wrote it is, I just wrote myself a phrase, is arrange the future, analyzing, and achieving the strategy.
I think that's
So,
great. Very
It
good.
kind of goes who I am. It just kind of helps me remember what's my top, what I'm leading with, but what the other ones are not necessarily in the beginning before this class. I thought, okay, these are my less of a strict, right? Or like third, fourth, fifth,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's pyramid. And for me, it's like I'm glad that actually my achieving stands behind arranging and analyzing, because you don't want to be jumping into stuff, achieving stuff without first thinking through the proper patterns and eliminating what's faulty thinking, And so anyway, arrange the future, analyzing and achieving the strategy.
That's very good. Excellent. Great example. Thank you very much. Well done. Well done. Good. I'd love to hear another one. Anybody else have one? The more embarrassing, the better, by the way. The weirder, the goofier, the more out there, we're all for that. So who else has one they would like to share?
Mine's more serious, but I just don't go in the goofy route. I wish I could. Righteous, steadfast lions realize ideas.
Great. Do it one more time. Love it.
Righteous, steadfast lions realize ideas.
Yes, that's great. Well done. Very good. Excellent. That's an excellent mnemonic. Two really good examples. Good. Can we get one more? One more example? I'd love to hear from someone that hasn't shared yet too, by the way. Like, that would be awesome. Another pickle. A pickle with responsibility. No. All right. Fine, fine. But I thought that was really good, y'all. Oh, was somebody else going to come through? No? My guilt trip didn't work? No?
Someone wanted to go here.
Oh, perfect. Oh, good. Please do. Yes, yes, thank you.
I don't know if I did it right, but I said positivity. Positive minds brings happiness to me and others.
Say it one more time. Positive minds.
Happiness to me and others.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just having a hard time hearing you. What's your name, by the way?
What's my name?
Yeah.
Anna?
I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Cena.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. All right, great. So, right. So does your first one begin with the letter H?
What?
Oh, the idea was like you'd create a sentence like happy campers include airtight.
I did mine wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries at all. That's why I wanted to clarify. But yeah, that's good. You'll just create like a little sentence, like I think something like happy campers, like and then you just finish it out, just so you remember.
I guess I could just add them all together. Happiness continuing, introducing, arranging positivity.
Perfect. Mwah. Love it. That's great. As long as it helps you remember your top 5, that's the most important thing, because then you can learn to spot your themes more. As you relate to your themes, you'll see them happening more and more, and then you'll learn how to manage them better. So that's great. All of you, thank you. Those are great examples. So that's perfect. That's the mnemonic exercise. That's all meant to help us to connect to our top 5. So keeping it going. That was this here. You did a great job. Practice your mnemonic like 2 or 3 times this week, and you'll remember your top 5 themes forever. So yeah, so that was connect. Now, once you connect to your themes, and that's still a process that will take, continued practice, but now we can observe our themes more. So that's what we want to get into next. When we talk about observing, it's not just about like understanding your themes intellectually. It's really about seeing our talents with new eyes. I mean, in a lot of ways, you've lived with these your whole life. So now we're having you take a step back and maybe start to see these talents. I hope that's happening for you. I hope it's kind of like cool. Like you're like, wow, yeah, I guess I never really did think about this, but I do this all the time. And you know what? Sometimes it holds me back, but a lot of times it's really made my life easier. And here's one of the reasons why it makes our lives easier, because I read somewhere that we have somewhere around 2,500 to 3,300 separate thoughts per hour. Isn't that interesting? Like, I don't know how they estimated that, and I don't have another number or a way to question it. So let's just go with it. Let's just say there's a lot of thoughts we have in an hour. How do we keep it all straight? How do we know what to do? Well, our patterns are what allow us to do things. While we're having all these thoughts, somehow you were able to drive to work. How are you able to drive to work while tuning your radio or whatever music you're listening to, or talking on the phone, or whatever, drinking your coffee and blah, blah, blah? How did you do all that and get to work in one piece? It's your patterns. Do you remember when you first took your driver's exam? Were you as nonchalant as you were this morning driving here if you drove to work? Like, do you remember being like, okay, I'm going to pull away from the curb. I'm going to use my turn signal. You're going to use your turn signal. Does anybody use their turn signal anymore to pull away from the curb? Well, yeah, if you have a driving instructor next to you, your hands in the 10 and 2 position. Who does that anymore? But anyway, at first everything was really rehearsed and awkward when you were driving, but now you do it without even thinking about it. That's what we're talking about. That's what your themes are. Your themes are hold on, there's a echo. Your themes are patterns. Patterns. How you think, feel, and behave. I'm sorry, there's this weird, is there lag? Are you guys hearing lag?
It was a little bit.
All right, good. It wasn't just me. So the patterns are really important, and they allow us to get things done, even though we have so many other things we want to think about. So our patterns are really good. It's just that they're automatic, and we want to be more deliberate about them. Because can you see how your themes might get in the way of you getting the outcomes you want sometimes, if you're not careful? Yeah, careful. If you don't manage your themes, undermine what you're trying to do. Anyway, I don't know how bad I can hear myself, so it's a little awkward. So I remember talking to you earlier about contrast and alignment. Remember what I said when our outcomes match our purpose, we have alignment. And when they don't, we have contrast. Well, what I'm saying is that in life, everything is on this meter, this what I call an alignment meter. Everything you experience is either going to align or contrast with you. And some things are just really, they really overwhelm you. Like when the demand far exceeds your ability to meet it, when it far exceeds your capacity, then that is suffering. So for example, if the physical demand is greater than your capacity to meet it, you're suffering physically. If the financial demand is greater than your financial capacity to meet it, you're going to suffer financially, right? If the emotional demands of the situation are higher than your emotional capacity, you're going to suffer emotionally. Does that make sense? So we're talking about strength here. Strength is your ability to meet a demand. You know, when you think of like a military press, you know, how strong I am would be measured by how much weight I could successfully press. Yeah. So think about life as life is putting demands on you, and your ability to meet those demands is strength. That's like the most basic definition of a strength. When you think about like going back to gym class in school, you know, how strong are you? But when the demand so far exceeds our ability to meet it, we suffer. And so in that sense, that's severe contrast. It's against what we want. It's contrasting with what we want. We're suffering. We don't want to suffer. We want to thrive. We want to be over here. But we can't go from suffering to thriving. That just doesn't happen like that. Like overnight, I wish we could. A miracle could happen, maybe. But really, the way we get from suffering to thriving is through a very important word. It's probably one of the most important words for me is progression. Progression is how we get from a contrast to alignment. There is no other way. We have to make progress in the positive direction, in the forward direction. So I may not be able to go from here all the way to here, but I can go from here to here. And I could go from here to here. And this is how we move forward. And we move from from suffering, we move to struggling. And struggling may not be a picnic, but it's way better than suffering. Struggle, we all know struggle. In fact, struggle is how we got to where we are. You struggled to breathe when you were born. You struggled to see. You struggled to walk. You struggled to speak. You don't have those struggles anymore. You've progressed well beyond that. Struggle is how you grew. Maybe sometimes the struggle was too much. The demand far exceeded you. That's suffering. But when you made the right adjustments, you then turned the suffering into a struggle. And that struggle you turned into growth. That's what any growth involves struggle. We have to struggle to grow. Struggle is nature's catalyst for growing. But if it's, like I said, if it's too much struggle, that's not good for us. We suffer. If it's the right amount and we make the right amount of adjustments, we struggle less. We struggle forward. We struggle into the zone I call traction. We're getting traction. We're not slipping backwards. We're making forward momentum now. And there's a point where you reach that. It takes a little bit to get there, but boy, does it feel good. Forward progress. The things I do are mattering. And you're even getting traction here, you know, as you move toward this zone, you're feeling it, but you're really feeling the traction here. And pretty soon you're thriving. You're in that good zone of thriving where we want to be. And this is how I think of it. Everything about us, our environment fits somewhere. Everything, every person you know will fit somewhere on your alignment meter. Some degree of contrast or alignment. Every task you do, you'll either love it or you'll be so-so or you'll dislike it. everything you experience fits on your alignment meter. Basically, this has always been there. You've always had an alignment meter, you just didn't know it. Does that make sense? What do you guys think of the alignment meter so far? Is it another one of those things that's kind of like, it's basic, but we just don't think about it that much? But here's what I want to tell you is that when you answered all those questions on the Strengths Finder, it was kind of asking you, are you more like this? Are you more like this over here, or are you more like over here? And so, or are you in the middle? And so a lot of the questions on there helped you find out where you are on your alignment meter. Hold on, I'm trying to erase this stuff. There we go. Yeah. All right. So what your top 5 themes are basically, of all 34 themes, your top 5 are the ones that most align with you. Of all 34 of the things they were testing for, your top 5 are the things they said, oh, this was what aligns with you the most. Does that make sense? So when you look at your top 5, those are the things that you tend to like. Those are the type of people, the type of situations, the type of jobs that you like to be around. And so it's a great, like, I don't know, Pathfinder or Strength Finder. It helps you find your strength. So what I want to show you is then once you know what aligns with you, a whole bunch of things happen. See, when you experience alignment, things on this side, you experience positive emotions. But when you experience contrast on this side, you experience negative emotions. Does that make sense? This should explain your emotions. Your emotions are basically an assessment of whether something aligns with you or contrasts with you. If you're really happy or engaged or excited or interested or whatever, it aligns with you. If you're angry or annoyed or frustrated or sad, it contrasts with you. And those emotions determine how you engage. They determine your mindset. Is it going to be a positive mindset or a negative mindset? Negative emotions lead to a negative mindset, and positive emotions lead to a positive mindset. Make sense? And then my mindset determines how much velocity, how much output, how productive I am. And that determines how people feel about me. And that determines my emotions, and it just kind of feeds back in. So do you see how what you experience on your alignment meter has a huge factor in your day-to-day? Any thoughts, reactions to that? I'd love to hear some. Like, what do you think of that realization? Do you hate it? Or does maybe you don't like it, maybe it bores you, or do you see, like, does it explain?
I feel like it helps you better understand yourself. And sometimes just by being more mature and through experience and through other tools and whatnot, by far, like, I try to think throughout the day, I'm frustrated, why is that? Because sometimes around other people, we get irritable with them, or like at home, after work, but it could be just because I didn't meet my goals today for myself, and I didn't perform as much as I wanted to, but sometimes in the moment you think, oh, that person did this or that, and then, but self-analyzing yourself sort of through these and kind of taking time to get yourself at least
Yes.
the realization of your current state helps you better be around other people and improve.
And this is very helpful because what aligns with you is often determined by your themes, but how likely is it that someone's going to have the same top 5 themes as you? I could tell you the chance of someone having the same top 5 as you are 1 in 278,000. That's the chance of 2 people having the same top 5. And the chance of having the same top 5 in the same order is 1 in 33 million. That should be a 3. 1 in 33 million. So it's not very common. So people are going to process things very differently. Their methods, their how is going to be different because of our themes. These are all different ways of going about things. So we're going to run into people who are going to contrast with us. We're going to run into things that maybe your loved one loves, but that you can't stand, because you have different alignment meters. What contrasts with you might align for other people. What aligns with you might contrast with other people. You're an achiever. You want to get things done. I'm an ideator. I want to think about things, and I'm an intellectual. I want to ideate and I want to conceptualize. I don't want to do. Doing is boring. You want to know what? I hate doing. There, I said it. I don't want to do. I'm sick of doing. Doing is repetitive. Doing takes work. Doing takes effort. And I'd rather just think about it instead. There. So be it. No, but obviously you got to do all of it, but knowing where I enjoy things, and I enjoy ideas and concepts. So my career is around ideas and concepts. My career aligns with me. If my career was around doing things, it would, like construction work, it would contrast with me. So we want to create alignment in our lives, and that's the power of the alignment meter. And when we don't have alignment, that's okay. Contrast is unavoidable. It's unavoidable that there would be contrast. You cannot go through the world and not have things run against what you want or the way you think things should be. It's impossible, right? So the idea is learning to recognize contrast and learning to move it towards alignment. That's leadership. That's the ability we all have in our lives. Honestly, I know things can be a suck fest. That's a technical term. No, things can be terrible. You know what I mean? But there's always something we can do to make progress if we don't get sucked into the vortex of negative emotion. Because that's what contrast does to us. It defeats us. You know that phrase, we have nothing to fear but fear itself? It's because fear is an emotion. And if we succumb to that emotion, that's what we should really be afraid of. But instead, what we should do if we feel fear is we should say, wow, something's contrasting with me. Let me not avoid it. Let me look for how I can move it toward alignment. What do I need to change? Do I need to change something in the environment around me? Or do I need to change something in the individual, which is within me? Within me is where I have the power to make changes. I could do it if I could learn to recognize my patterns are getting triggered. Or I can try to manage my environment, what's outside of me. I could try to do that too. We could do both. If we do that, we can move from contrast to alignment. That's what I want to say on that. It's beautiful. It's a really good philosophy. I call it progression theory. You cannot be perfect. Perfect is not attainable. Perfect is never possible. But progression, well, it's the opposite. Progression is always possible. It's always possible to make progress. Always, always, always. So what we want to do is do a little exercise with you where you look at an experience that contrasted with you and an experience that aligns with you. So think of an activity, maybe a time or day that you did it. What was the activity? And then give it a score, 0 to 100. 50 is right here in the middle. But try to give it precise. Is it a 12? Is it a 32 or 33? Is it a 97? Is it a 61? There, that's random. 61.86. 1. Whatever, however, you can get real precise if you want. I don't care. But give it a score. And then what themes would account for your score? What theme, if it was a high score, If it's a high score, then what themes were contributing to it? If it's a low score, then how were your themes blocked or thwarted? Does that make sense? I'd like to give you guys like a few minutes to do that. Do you guys want me to not play some music, or do you want me to play some relaxing music? I'd like to give you a few minutes to work on that. 5 minutes only this time. Cool? Anybody have any questions? All right, I'm gonna start the activity now then, and I'll try to find some music to play. All right, how are you guys doing? I'd love to hear some examples. Anybody have an example of an activity that rated high on their alignment meter? Like, what's an activity you really like, or really aligns with you? Or does anybody have one that really contrasted with them? Any examples? Yeah, that'd be great, please.
I put that sitting here in orientation yesterday was very contrast.
Say it one more time.
Sitting here yesterday was very like, it was difficult for me because we had the laptops open, and so I had my work email open, and so I could see all the cases that my team was getting, but I couldn't help with any of them.
Right.
And I decided to not check my email.
That's great. What a great example. So you have your email open while you're trying to focus on something else, and it's triggering all of these things. So what themes did it like either trigger negatively or how did your themes come into play with that? What into having that feeling or that experience?
Responsibility and achieving, and learner too, because orientation is fun and all, but it's essentially like the same information at every orientation you go to, how to do this, how to do that. Whereas if I was at work, I'd be learning something I didn't know, or how to help my team, and I'd be, taking some of that load off of them because we're a little understaffed right now.
What a beautiful, that's wonderful. That's such a great example of how this works. The activity, clearly you were learning in orientation, but that's not as exciting to your learner as learning in cases and actually in the workplace, or in the, is it with surgical cases or with patient cases?
Everything, radiology, surgical, whatever.
Right. So that really helps you learn about, like, not all learning is created equal for you, right? Now, were you able to probably hang out in an orientation? Sure. But you had your email open, so it was compared to the other thing. So in a way, the contrast actually taught you something, it teaches us what we enjoy more. Anyway, I think that was such a great example and how our themes come into play. Thank you. Anyone else have an example of how of an activity that aligned or misaligned with them? Yeah, please.
So last night after work, I had a call from a friend who works for the foundation I used to work for this foundation. It's an international foundation. And she asked me to complete this international request from one of the American companies for a large donation of items to Ukraine. I'm Ukrainian myself. So that your grade was that, how to speak with people, you have this background, that background, you've done these things before. That the CEO asked me to do it, but my English is not that great and I can't really speak that way and do all the negotiations. So I thought about it, like for me it was a wrencher. Like during the conversation, I already kind of had almost in the back of my head, had a plan how to do it because I've done similar things before. Then I could see so many possibilities that that's not futuristic, like theme comes in. I could see possibilities of it, and like for both parties involved, and that company can sort of advertise on foundation's website, get more names, sort of like internationally, gain more like name recognition internationally, and then I analyze by the end of the conversation, while also shopping at HPH for dinner for the week, I was like, so multitasking and doing that. I analyzed what's needed. I need your nonprofit tax exemption form. I need this. By the end of the conversation, I had those things sent to me. And then, so I sort of had a strategy in mind, and what's left is just to start moving forward to kind of achieve. So I communicated, I sent email out, said quickly, high level, this is what I'm going to do, but I'll keep you posted and whatnot. And then the CEO involved a bunch people to the email who sort of worked there, but that's not like, I'm thinking at the end I got so frustrated because they sent me, please use this template as an email when you reach out. I'm thinking you don't even speak well like your English, and it's like I need to like let me take a stab at it. You reached out, but they said some like, and then 5 more people stepped in and they said, well, we have to be careful with these rights, with those rights. I'm thinking, this there's so many stuff in place, and they started like questioning everything before I even a first step at it, and so that was frustrating, and I just kind of spent a few hours on it and told them, look, I let them, I was like, okay, keep emailing and give me time after work, I will resume on this, but we'll see. I feel extremely frustrated because it's like, sort of like suffering and struggling with it. I gave it 25 score because but it could have been so amazing if they just like let me do it, but then don't set those harsh requirements and put 5 more people to it if you're asking to do it.
Yeah, I can see how that would be extremely frustrating. And that's one of the things I'd want to point out too, is where think about your themes that are like your number 1, number 2 themes, your very high themes. You have very high standards in those areas. So if I have achiever very high or learner very high, I have very high standards for getting things done. And I don't like things that fall below my standards. If I have learner very high, I have very high standards for the quality of information. If I have futuristic, like you have very high, I have very high standards for the planning involved and how good, how effective the planning is for the future. Or you have analytical very high. You have very high standards for the quality of data. But other people do not have their standards that high. Sorry about the echo. I don't know if it's affecting you, but like it is me. But like I have includer as my number 34. So my standards for includer are very low. But if you have includer very high, then you have very for including people and getting them involved. And it's easy to get frustrated. So just keep that in mind where your themes are high. Other people, unless they have those themes high, which chances are they don't, then it's going to be frustrating. So we want to make sure we find work environments that fit with our themes and the people that appreciate and can work with our theme. Does that make sense? There's a lot of echo, so I'm sorry if it's jumbled, but what do you think of that? Yeah, so just think about that, because I mean, it's easy for me, like I have ideation very high, so I get very bored easy with people normal ideas. I like creativity. So I have to remember not everybody's the same way. Yeah. And that's helpful for me. But the other thing is, how can I elevate people? So my job isn't, like for me, I have to remember, all right, well, how can I help other people along, maybe, if that's possible? How can I help them see the future idea? It's hard because if they don't have these things, they don't see the strategy you put into things. They don't see the analysis. And analytical is all about quality. So like you're going to be accurate and precise, and other people may not be as precise. So it's always a struggle, but I can see how that's frustrating. Anyway, this is about how alignment and contrast works. When you experience contrast in your life, usually there's a lesson for you. Usually, if you don't get sucked into the vortex of emotions, you can instead learn something, a new way to use your themes, a new way to work around it. All right. So we're getting near the end here, and I don't want to take a break because we might just be able to end a little early instead of taking a break. And I don't know, what do you guys have next? Do you guys have lunch next? Is that what was being handed out?
Yeah.
So everybody's settled for what they're going to eat in a little bit? All right, or you got what you need? All right, good. So I want to show you a few more things, and then any questions you guys have. You've been great so far. I really appreciate it. And I know this is a lot of information, and I know it's hard to look at some guy on a screen the whole time, but you've been doing really, really good. All right. So what I want to get into then, back here, we've talked about connect. We talked about observe. Now we're going to talk about interrupt. And so there's another report we want you to look at. I think you have it. It looks like this. It's called your theme anatomy. So let me see. Do you guys have that one? I'll put it up here again so you can see. It looks like this. Is that one you guys have? Yep. Or just somebody give me a thumbs up so I can know if you guys have it. So you guys don't have that one then? Okay, you do have it. All right, good. Yeah, thanks. All right. So what I want to show you is that every theme, if we were to look at it under a microscope and do a cross section of it, it would look like this. At the center of each of your themes, there's a purpose. There's a reason why that theme exists. If you have achiever, 32% of the population will have it. Almost 1 out of 3 people. That's the most popular theme. The least popular, the least common theme is command. And even still, 5% have it. 1 out of 20 people. 1 out of 20 people. So 1 out of 20 people have command, and 1 out of 10 have achiever. Oh, this lag is killing me. Sorry. But there's got to be a reason so much of the population has that. And because you have that purpose, because you have the responsibility theme or the arranger theme or intellection theme or relator theme, you have needs. You have needs that you try to meet. And in order to meet those needs, you've developed patterns for how you behave, for how you feel, for how you think. This is why you are the way you are. I mean, I'm telling you, this is one of the main reasons that describe your day-to-day, whether you had a good day or a bad day, will be, did your patterns match your environment or were they a mismatch? Were you around people that and activities that you were able to use your qualities, your natural qualities, or were you constantly frustrated? Do you see? I mean, if you want to have a good life and a better life, be around people that match what your patterns are. And if you want to be frustrated more of the time, be around things and situations that frustrate your patterns. So that's theme anatomy. So every theme you see here, we're going to look at the achiever theme. What's its purpose? To complete important tasks and reach goals through dedicated effort. That's why people have it. And because they have it, what do they need? If you have this purpose, what do you need? Well, I need the ability to get the jobs done. I need to be unencumbered from long-winded StrengthsFinder teachers. I need to be in pursuit of worthy, accomplishable results with a clear endpoint. I don't want to be doing pointless work. And because I have these needs, then what feels good to me is when I get progress, and what feels bad to me is when I don't make progress. The thoughts I have are about how do I get things done? And the behaviors I do are to get things done. And therefore, what matches with me are situations where I can make tangible progress. And it enables me to get things done, and I can work hard and I can be extremely productive. But if I'm around situations where taking actions is not, I can't do it, I can't get things done, I don't have the equipment, I can't make progress, well, then I'm going to act out. I'm going to be frustrated. And and this report does that for each of your themes. It follows that anatomy. Does that make sense? So you have a worksheet. We won't do it now, but what I'd love for you to do is look at your ruts for each one of your themes of talent. Write in what challenge it poses for you. What are some of the challenges that having that pattern poses for you? If you have the achiever pattern, what gets in the way? What frustrates you? What rut do you get into if you don't focus, or if you fall too much into your pattern? Your responsibility theme, what frustrations does it create for you? What problems does it create for you over time? So that's a really cool thing, your context theme. If you have context, what does that mean? How does that affect you? Do sometimes people say, wow, you live in the past, or you got to move on from that? Well, you have context. You don't want to move on from it. It's important. You honor the past and where you've been. Yeah, if you have the strategic theme, well, strategic is about you know, how do I not waste resources? I don't want to do things that don't make sense. I want to do things that get me to where the goal. That's what my strategic likes. My positivity doesn't like negative. This is my number 32, by the way. Includers my number 34. Positivity is also very low. So I don't need positivity like other people. So me being my normal self may feel negative to people with positivity. I may upset people because I don't have this desire for the positive necessarily. I'm like, you know, so I can inadvertently frustrate people or create contrast for them. So learning about our themes really, really matters for all of that. So we can interrupt and not get stuck in our ruts. Anybody recognize a rut for one of their themes? As we've been talking, has anybody said, oh yeah, I fall into this rut a lot because of this theme? Anything from what I've said or described, or anything that you think of for your rut?
Taking on things that I shouldn't.
Okay. Yeah, which theme is that? The responsibility theme?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good, great example. Thank you for that. That I hear that a lot. So just learning to be aware of it could help, you know. It's still, you still might take on things, but at least you'll be more aware. And then maybe in the future, you won't take things on. You know, you'll say the most responsible thing I could do is say no. Oh, that's interesting, right? I never thought about that. I always thought responsibility means saying yes. But you know what? If I'm going to be truly responsible here, I need to say no. I'm sorry, I can't do that for you. I can't take that on. I also think it's fair to renegotiate commitments. If you took on something 5 years ago because you agreed to, and you know, and you're stuck with it now, and you're like, why? I think it's okay to renegotiate commitments. It's, you know, enough is enough. You know, you can live your own lives. You don't have to keep holding on to those commitments. Just little things. Anybody else have an example of one of their themes and how it might, you know, create a rut? We have responsibility. What's another example? Latanya, do you have one from yours that you have? Do you ever have any ruts with responsibility, harmony, or achiever, or learner? Which one?
Harmony.
Harmony. What's the rut look like for harmony for you?
I don't know if I'm saying this right, but I guess letting other people get away and I just take.
Yeah, no, you are saying it right. I've seen that happen a lot. It's just because you just want to keep the peace. You want harmony, you know, and other people, they don't think that way. So you're the one that has to accommodate. Yeah. So I remember somebody talking about the harmony theme specifically. The raw version is that you avoid conflict at all costs. The mature version is that you realize conflict will lead to a deeper harmony, which is really scary, I think. You know what I mean? Because it's like, well, will it really? But it will, because maybe that person just needs to hear it. They need to learn that they're overstepping boundaries. You know, maybe getting along with them isn't what harmony means. Maybe harmony means they stop interfering with you from doing what you do best. They quit imposing on you. So maybe the harmony isn't whether they like you or not. Maybe the harmony is we need to get things working out better. But I know it's a challenge, but every single theme has something like this. What a great example. Thanks, Latanya. I appreciate that. Good. Any others? Any examples of themes with a rut? So learning to manage our ruts, that's really important. That's a big part of this. All right. As we get to the end here, let's see, got a few more things to show you. We have, we get to nuance. So we went from raw talent to mature talent. We connect, we observe, we learn to interrupt, and then we can nuance. After we can interrupt our ruts, That's what we could do. Rather than all the way on or all the way off, we could dial our talents into the appropriate level for the situation. That's what we do. What's the situation? Rather than the themes just doing their automatic pattern, we say, wait, what's the situation? And now how much responsibility is needed here? Or how much of my achiever is needed here? Or how much harmony is needed here? You know what? I'm giving this person too much harmony. This person's getting too much of my harmony. I'm going to dial my harmony down a little bit. I'm going to make them work for me a little bit. I'm going to see if they're going to accommodate me. You know? What do you think of that? All right. I like that. All right. So think of it as volume control. Dial it all the way up or all the way down or somewhere in the middle. And you get to control that. They're your themes. That's the idea here. You get to decide. That's the power of taking the Strengths Finder. So yeah, what we want to do then is after we learn about our themes, maybe another worksheet. We won't do it now, but for later, take it home. When you're able to interrupt, the next level of mastery is the ability to dial its intensity up or down. So for each one of your themes, describe some situations where you might want to dial up that theme. Where would you want to dial up your achiever? Where do you need to dial up your responsibility? Probably not too much. Where do you need to dial down your responsibility? Where do you need to dial down your restorative? Where do you need to dial down your activator, or dial up your woo, or dial down your relator? Think about those. That's like a really good exercise. Just some resources that we want to make you aware of. Basically, there's an internal website that we have, let's see, here at Houston Physicians. It's the Talent to Strength. And you can get your results. You can learn more about the themes here and here. So there's place, yeah, it's right here. It says T2S in this menu. So you can click right on that, get to some resources. Gallup has a bunch of things. They have something called Theme Thursday. They have podcasts around Strengths Finder, YouTube channels, Facebook groups. So, yeah, lots and lots of resources to learn more about it. I don't think we're doing that activity. I think what I want to do is before you leave, well, I want to do some Q&A, but please complete the feedback form. The patterns you have developed for your dominant talents enable you to do things with amazing efficiency, effectiveness, and energy. It enables us to do things that others find to be draining and difficult. That's your advantage. Thanks for your time and attention today. So there's that. All right. So we covered all of this, y'all. Look at that. Look at all that territory we covered. And it's really learning about you, learning about your patterns, learning about what happens within you and how you could harness those better. Why? So you could apply them to the activities in your lives that will help you get to the outcomes you want so you could thrive. That's the whole deal. So yeah, let me hear some thoughts, some questions, some feedback, please. It would be really helpful to round things out. What are your thoughts? Or let's start with some questions. Any questions about this? No questions at all. Everything makes perfect sense. Oh, we got a question. Okay, I didn't see. Please go ahead. Maybe there wasn't a question. I don't know. I'm not in the room, guys, so it's hard for me to know. No questions?
We can find this on the Gallup app.
Yeah, the Gallup application has a lot of information about Strengths Finder themes. It doesn't have coin model on there or some of the exercises. That's unique to Talent to Strength, but there's a lot of information on the app, so I highly recommend that. Good.
There's a available through Gallup, not necessarily maybe under the umbrella of HPH or like through HPH, but just generally where two people can fill out their talents and strengths, and it would kind of give sort of some guidance on communication?
That's a great question. There's not any tools like that I know of, but that's what's cool about at HPH. You'll be able to know everybody's, like you have a sheet in your resources that lists the top 5 for all the managers and senior team members, I think, which is great. So if you look up your boss's top 5 and you learn about his or her themes, it's going to help you understand the language they speak. So yeah, and anytime if you guys ever have problems like where you want to learn how to work together with somebody based on their themes, I'm happy to talk with you guys about it. My role is I'm a consultant with HPH. I work for myself. I live in Tulsa, but HPH is one of my biggest clients and one of my favorite clients. So anytime you guys have questions, just reach out, adam@positiveleadership.com. And, I'll know from your email that you're with HPH. Just feel free to, pop me a question anytime. I love talking about this topic. I think it's very important. And I hope you are open-minded to it. I hope you liked it and that you want to learn more about yourself and then these tools too. So yeah, any other questions? Any feedback? Was this a good use of your time? Did you guys get good value from it? Did you learn something about yourself or overall life in general?
Learn some about myself, and it's interesting.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I really enjoyed it, you guys. I'll stick around in case anybody has any questions, but I know you probably want to get some lunch and all that. And you've been a great group. So thank you very much. And we can end it there. But like I said, I'll stick around. I'll